Okay, we are live again. The real question is...
If we're back.
where this one went. Whether it's just adding on to the first one or... There we are.
Oh, I think we're back.
We are back. So now I need to edit this.
Or is that earlier?
Part 2. Upload thumbnail. Same one as earlier. Save. And of course, it's taking its sweet time. Yep. And I will leave that. Okay.
Oh, technology.
All right, well, oops.
Is it really an event without some sort of technical difficulty?
Right.
Hey, Billy.
Was Billy here?
Yes.
Why don't I see Billy as being here?
In the chat.
Now I don't see... Oh, there it is.
Thank you for hanging with us through our technical difficulties.
All right. Well, at this point, do you want to? You were answering questions. I didn't actually hear how many of them you got through.
I think I answered the ones that I saw, although I have no idea when the stream stopped, so I I don't know what was heard.
All right. Billy, you were watching. Do you know what the last part came through was? Well, we got back up to four people watching, so people are finding it. Of course, one of those is me.
Well done.
We had 60 views on the earlier one, so. Billy, there was a question she was answering. I didn't catch how many there were.
Did you hear me answer your question? Because I think that was the last one.
And also, if anybody on the chat right now, now that we are regrouping from technical difficulties, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat and we would love to answer them.
So Celeste, what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh, this is a good question. I forget how we phrased that, so I'm not sure what Billy's I did not means. Oh, she didn't hear you answer her question. Okay, do you want to do that while I think about ice cream? Because that's a really hard question.
Sure, I have to scroll back up. Yeah, Billy asked what I hope for from other adults who are in my child's life. And I was saying, you know, that really I wanted the same for both of my kids. But now thinking here, I guess, in terms of support, I should answer that way as well. That, you know, I would love if everyone who was in our life was speaking up and speaking out against the things that are happening in the world around us. And thankfully, I believe a good number are, but that's certainly something that we need more of as people, especially who are not directly affected by policies, are speaking out. And that's something that certainly everyone who has been here this evening has been talking about the need for those who are cis and straight and white and middle class to be looking at those who are being harmed and doing something about it. What I was saying earlier when I was thinking more broadly was that, you know, I want both of my kids to be seen for who they are by the adults in their lives and to be celebrated for the creative, smart, witty people that they are.
Love all of that.
Glad for a chance to re-answer that. I feel like I was more eloquent that time.
I like it. I'll clip that one for the when I do highlights.
Nice.
Favorite flavor of ice cream now? I've been going, we have in Southern California, there's a place called Salt and Straw. They make really good ice cream. I don't know where else they are, but we have a number of them here. And they make a cinnamon snickerdoodle that I have been loving lately. And it's got like little
that sounds good.
Like snickerdoodle cookie in it that they're like they're really soft. I'm a sucker for like, some sort of flavor to the ice cream itself, and then like add like some sort of like with stuff, whether like brownie bites or cookie pieces or something like that. That tends to be. I tend to go more towards like vanilla or vanilla plus bases. I tend not to do too many chocolate bases, but
Okay, that's fair.
Do you have a favorite?
So my favorite came from a place in St. Louis. A shout out to Clementines, who had a vegan lemon poppy seed. And it surprises me that was my favorite, because I'm not typically oh yes, I would like lemon ice cream, please. But it was so good.
Sounds pretty amazing.
And just talking about it now makes me really want to, drive the 2 days down just to get that.
Amazing. Yeah. There was a place when I lived in San Luis Obispo, there was a place, I don't know, 15, 20 miles north of us, called Negrante. I don't know, they should pay me now since I'm broadcasting, but to people, but their thing, they made normal ice cream, but they also made sheep's milk ice cream. And it was phenomenal. Like I never knew what I was missing until I had it, and now I know what I'm missing, and it makes me sad. But yeah, it like gave it it was still very creamy and sweet, but it gave it kind of a lighter texture. I don't know. It was a whole thing. And every flavor they made was good.
Mm-hmm. A place that makes their own in sort of small batch style seems to be far more delicious.
Agreed. Yeah.
Also, I just had a message from Mitch, who is watching, but for whatever reason, YouTube will not let him chat with us.
Oh.
But he says hi.
Well, hi, Mitch. Good to hear about your messaging of Jen.
But that was to both of us. And I don't know, maybe it was also to those of you who are watching.
Yeah. We would love to hear from anybody who is watching, but can you ask me why I have Moana behind me?
Why do you have Moana behind you?
What a great question you came up with. That's amazing. I was just looking for an excuse to talk about her all day. So if you know me at all from online, you know that I love Moana deeply. But anyway, she is my like courage figure for I could stay where I am and it might be okay. And probably wouldn't be, but it'd sure feel comfortable while I did it. At least for a time. Or I can go and I don't know where I'm going, right? And I'm not sure where I'm going. I don't know how I'm going to get there. But I know that I have to.
Right? I can't relate to that at all.
And I figured you could relate to that at the moment. So, yeah. So Moana felt appropriate. Moana never doesn't feel appropriate for me. I always feel, yeah, she's my girl. So
she's a good one.
She is. Ooh, Billy's got a new question. Jen, what do you look for in trans adults in terms of role models and/or mentors for your kiddo now or in the future?
That's a good question. I mean, I think I've lucked out in that I have a number of great trans adult friends who are remarkable and are great as role models, you being one of them. Yeah, so I don't know that I've had to really go like hunting for such a thing. But yeah, I mean, I think what we have looked for our kids and all manner of things is a diversity of experience and a willingness to share of who they are. And so, it was one of the things in a book that I led a book study on. There was this talk of how a lot of parents of trans kids, there was an organization that had tension about adult trans people and sort of wanting to keep them separate. And that struck me as so bizarre because, the idea that, and I think the idea was that, there were struggles that the hope was that these kids would not experience. But I think that stories always help us in all manner of ways, and that hearing about struggle, even if it's different from the struggles, that a kid will face, is beneficial and a gift to hear those stories. And also, I told the group that I was leading about, there are things that they need to know, even beyond struggle, that, experiences that will be the same, that a cis person can't navigate in the same way. So having folks who have had a variety of experiences, whether, knowing trans from childhood or, discovering that about themselves later on. I'm thankful for the great diverse community that both of my kids have to learn from and to be a part of.
I love it. I think for me, I know, I don't know, it is just so helpful to have other trans people around. Like, it would have just been so hard to do this. I'm always it's incredible to me when I meet like people who transitioned, 30, 40 years ago or whatever, and they didn't know anybody, they just did it. And I was like, that's amazing. And incredible. And I don't even know how, but I feel obviously always blessed to know so many amazing trans people who have been part of my life and helped me to know how to do that well, or how to, and show me the like possibilities, right? That it would have been harder to see. And even just like when I first started to realize like, oh, I think I'm trans, what I thought first was, oh, I experience transy feelings. I experience gender dysphoria. And if only I had known that 20 years ago, I could have transitioned. Was how I started, right? And it was only when I started looking online, yes, in the famed trans halls of Reddit, and started seeing other people. And I remember just one of the big things that happened was I just came across somebody talking about facial feminization surgery. And I was like, wait, what? And that was the moment it clicked for me of like, wait, this might be possible.
Yeah.
Right? And then as soon as it was possible, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to make this happen. But,
going off camera momentarily to open the door for my cat, but I'm still here.
Go for it. And you are still on microphone, but
it's still here.
All good. Billy says, I love that. I am both blessed by our trans ancestors and excited for the world the next generation of trans kids will get to inherit if we are able to overcome the present obstacles. Absolutely. 100%. And it's helpful for me to read, stories of, like we were talking about earlier with Rabbi Daniel, of, stories of trans people of the years past.
Yeah.
Yep. It's been cool talking with everybody today. Every single one of them, like I've been like, oh my gosh, why can't I have you for another hour? Right? The time has just absolutely flown by with each of them.
Such great folks.
I get to the end and I'm like, but we just started talking.
The very first segment, I was like, wait, it's not time to change yet. I wonder if there's, you mentioned that those stories of this cat cannot decide whether she wants in or out. Those stories of trans ancestors, is there one that sticks out to you as particularly meaningful, or just a random one that you wish to share?
I'm trying to think which one. I think I get a lot out of the one. I know I talked about it earlier, and I know they weren't even necessarily out as trans, but the author of Little Women, and I usually don't say their name because I don't know what to call them at this point, but like just knowing like that story helps me so much of like, okay, so we were here. We were always here, right? Is a big one. And then I think, I don't know, you hear stories about, the queer community of Germany in the 20s and 30s. And then I think weirdly, and this one, yes, I'm sure Billy can. I'm trying not to go with like too much of the cliches, but we've talked about Marsha P. Johnson. I think
You
somebody
nearly
named
piped up earlier that I wrote a paper on her for my class this semester.
Oh my gosh, I need to read this. But
And it was about leadership.
okay, yeah, and then and then Sylvia, right? I loved Mom Donnie's video about Sylvia, a week or two ago. That was great. But I was the one that I don't even know if this one counts, but Jamie Clayton's character from Sense8, and by extension, Jamie Clayton herself, because she has been out for a while. She was doing it for a long time, but like the way they depict her story, I think meant so much to me, because it did just hit on so much of the importance of being yourself. And yeah, it might cost you a lot to do it, right? And you might not have the life that you wish you had, or you might have to sacrifice this or that, but there's really nothing like getting to move through the world as you are, and that kind of that spirit of standing around and saying this is who this is who I am, right? And everybody else can deal with that or not, but it's not going to change who I am.
Yeah.
Right? So I could say a lot about her, but yeah. No, because I think it's so easy. And I know to a large extent, this is why you see people trying to do, get rid of trans people out of the history books or off of Stonewall or whatever, right? Is, they want people to think, oh, we're just new. We're just a new whatever. And we're not, right? Yeah. So Billie will be better on that question. She's literally the history person. So
Getting coated in cat hair. This is Pixels. If you were actually here in my house, you would not see Pixels because she hides from everybody, but she likes to make appearances on Zoom calls and apparently live streams. She's my cat that can open doors.
that's amazing. It's quite the thing for a cat to be able to do.
Yeah, all the doors that have like the little handles, she'll jump up and grab it and pull it down.
Yeah. What is the question you get most, if you get questions about like I like what is the question you get most, I would say, just as the parent of a trans kid? And maybe I can ask two questions. One is, what's the question you get the most, and what's the question you like getting the most? Because I understand those might be different.
Yeah, they often are. I'm having trouble thinking. I mean, I used to get asked a lot of things while still in Missouri and coming here, and I was interviewed often. And I get asked a lot of questions, when facilitating various groups, although those are often not necessarily directed to me as the parent of a trans kid, but just as, a book discussion facilitator or someone who knows more than they do. I mean, I think a lot of folks don't understand what gender affirming care looks like. And so, bitten. Okay, cat. And so I do a lot of explaining as to, especially for kids, with a whole lot of disinformation that is being put out with that. I mean, I don't get asked, hey, do 3-year-olds really receive, surgeries? But, people really don't know what the process is. And I mean, if you don't need a certain form of healthcare, of course you don't know what the process is.
Right.
I don't know all manner of healthcare.
Yeah.
Things for needs I don't have. And so, so I get to talk about that often and what that really looks like for kids, and how awful it is that people who do know better in government continue to put out lies about those things. Yeah. As far as you also asked about the question I like receiving, probably something we've already talked about today, in that, what is bringing us joy and what are the good things, because being the parent of a trans kid is a gift, and it is something that I highly recommend if you can accomplish it.
Right.
Yeah. And so getting to talk about those things that isn't this, the only elements that are doom and gloom are the government, not my child or anything about her.
Right. Yeah, no, I am trans, and sorry, big reveal for those who didn't know. But I am trans, and also like I have my non-binary kid, and I learn a lot, right? Because that's a different experience than mine, right? Like just being gender non-conforming isn't this universal experience, right? They have a very different experience than I do, right? And I've had times where I've asked them, hey, what does that feel like? I don't know what it feels like to be non-binary, right? That's just not my experience. And it's been fun hearing them talk about that, especially since they are very, they're not particularly androgynous presenting, which
Mm-hmm.
say it with me, non-binary people don't owe you androgyny, right?
Nope.
That's not a thing. But they aren't very androgynous. And so like for me to be like, okay, tell me what that's like, having this gender expression, but having a non-binary gender identity, what is that? And it's just created really good conversations. And I wish, I always go, the Ted Lasso, be curious, not judgmental, which I know he got from somewhere else, but it's just, I wish people would just ask to learn, right? Because so often they just come in guns blazing with all kinds of things that are just not true.
Mm-hmm.
There's that. I see we do have a question. Did you consult with any LGBTQIA folks who have already left as you were making your decision to leave and where to go? It's a great question.
Oh, absolutely. Both. It's a good question, and absolutely, I consulted with LGBTQIA plus folks. In fact, I think everyone who I've talked to in terms of making those decisions has been queer. There are certainly on social media groups of folks, queer groups and trans specific groups as well, of folks who either already are expats or are preparing to do so. There are entire companies, that provide advice and information who are queer owned and specifically looking in business to help others in similar circumstances. So yes, 100%.
Yeah. While we wait for other questions, I was wondering, since I think it is one of the big ones, I know Ben gave us a very brief overview earlier, but I was thinking maybe we could spend time doing a little bit of a longer discussion, explanation, just kind of layout of what gender affirming care for minors is and looks like, right? Particularly the medical side, especially because there is so much misinformation about it, and things like that. And so, maybe we can do that for a little bit.
Sure.
Do you want to explain? I know some of it. Maybe I can try and you can correct me where I get it wrong. I don't know. We can collaborate on it.
Sure.
So first, I know that absent something like precocious puberty, which is treated as its own thing in all kids, cis or trans or anything. I heard a pastor once be like, well, I know that they're giving puberty blockers out as early as 6 because we have a pharmacist in our church who told me that they were asked to do that and they didn't know if they should as a Christian. And I'm like, of course you should, because that's a prescription for precocious
6-year-olds
puberty.
should not be going through puberty.
Right. And the idea that anybody would give puberty blockers out to a 6-year-old trans kid for the sake of being trans is nonsensical.
Mm-hmm.
Because if puberty isn't happening, then the puberty blockers wouldn't do anything.
Right. And they want to make sure that puberty can happen
Right.
before they are given. And so no puberty blockers are given until the first stages of puberty have begun.
Right. Yeah. So they watch for puberty to start, and only then do they do puberty blockers. It's not a proactive thing. It's kind of a little bit reactive, but early enough that it can kind of pause puberty before it goes too far. But yeah, so that's, what I mean, really it's based on stage of puberty, right? It's
Correct.
they obviously
Yeah.
precocious puberty they would treat as its own thing. Then once somebody is of an age where it makes sense for them to go through puberty, then we wait until they get to early, the proper stage. It's like
10 or
stage
2.
2, right? Right.
And I know there's often also, in addition to what is observed, at least the clinics I've talked to do blood work to make sure that, I guess, central puberty has begun. I don't.
Okay. So they're able to see kind of hormonally or something in the blood work that shows, yes, puberty is actually really kind of going.
They also want to make sure, I mean, it's a way that some might find out that they're intersex or that there's some other hormonal thing happening that was not just easily observed.
Yeah. And also, prior to this age, surgeries not happening.
No surgeries.
The only exception to that is intersex babies having non-consensual surgeries performed on them, which is something that the intersex community feels. I've seen there seems to be consensus amongst the intersex community. This is a bad thing. Obviously, if there is an actual medical issue,
right? If bodily functions are not,
something not working the way it needs to work, that's one thing. But if it's just ambiguous genitalia, something like that, leave it, right? Like there's no reason to correct. And then as that child gets older, if they want to do something, then they can do that. But that's not something that should be done on infants. And there's sadly many cases where a surgery like that was done, and then later on the kid was very insistent that they are a different gender, and then without even having known that surgery was done, and then it turns out, oh wait, this surgery was done. So but that's the only surgery happening, and in general it should not be.
Correct.
Yes. So then puberty blockers happen, and puberty blockers are effectively a safe reversible pause button. Somebody goes on puberty blockers at, like, say, age 11, right? Maybe. Somebody goes on puberty blockers at, say, age 11 and is on them for let's say they're on them for 3 years, and then decides, actually, you know what, I'm good. I'd like to just proceed with the puberty that my body would have done absent intervention. They can do that.
Blockers, and puberty begins.
Puberty begins and proceeds normally. And there's a few things that, like, doctors are, like all drugs, right? Like anybody who's been on any number of drugs knows that, like, okay, if you're on this drug, you have to do regular lab work and things like that, so that we can watch for various side effects. So I know there's things like bone density or whatever, but these are things that are well known and watched for, and also treated proactively if they can be. Like, I imagine, like, calcium supplements or things like that, to promote bone health and things like
it's really, bodies need to eventually have a puberty because you need to go from a child's body to an adult body,
right,
to be able to function in the way that you should as an adult.
And so at that point, at some point there, either the child chooses to simply go off the blockers and proceed with normal puberty, or they get to an age where it's like, okay, we do actually, like you just said, we do actually have to let you go through. You do actually have to go through a puberty. That is a thing that needs to happen. Which one do you want to go with, right? And at that point, they can either go off the blockers or go on hormones. That doesn't happen. Help me out on ages on that
It's
one.
roughly 3 years after you've been on blockers.
Okay. So I've heard typically we're talking 15, 15, 16-year-old, somewhere in there. I guess it could happen a little younger than that. Right. But typically in that range. And nobody's just like walking in for a first appointment at age 14 and walking out with their
Oh,
HRT,
absolutely not.
right?
100% no. That never happens. That is not a thing.
And in fact, even the puberty blockers at earlier ages, even despite their incredible reversibility, right, that still requires like therapists and primary carers, et cetera.
You need a documented history.
Okay. That shows, yes, gender dysphoria. We're still doing consistent, insistent, persistent. These are still,
I still hear those words.
the general words that are applicable here.
I can say I don't quite know what things look like. If a kid at onset of puberty says, "Oh, hold on, nope, this is right. Not it," since that is not my experience. But I know you don't get meds on a first visit.
Right. Yeah. I want to say I heard recently, maybe it was in the John Oliver, about Barry Weiss, but they were talking about like the average number of like doctor visits is anywhere from 6 to 12. Like doctor visits for gender dysphoria for the purpose of medical transition, it's like 6 to 12 over the course of like an average of a year or more, minimum like 6 to 12 months, somewhere in there. It depends on the state, but like these are not just like thrown out at people, right? These are things that take time to get, which is a whole other question. It should be, but then they go, maybe they go, if they choose to go on HRT, now they're into puberty of the gender that they know themselves to be, of their gender identity. They're going through puberty that way. That goes, that proceeds, and HRT is something. I'm on HRT. I'll always be on HRT, right? So HRT is something that you continue with, and that is where what Ben was saying earlier. HRT does have the same effects as a normal puberty, right. The other puberty, right? And so any effects that would happen that would be difficult to reverse, I always prefer that wording, hard to reverse, rather than irreversible, because that is what most of them are. There are some, for me, having gone through a masculine puberty, a testosterone driven one, there are some things that are truly irreversible. Like I'm 6'1", right? Like 6'1", 6'2", somewhere in there. And I can't fix that with HRT, right? I'm always going to be tall. There's nothing I can do about that at this point. And so if you had a trans masc person taking testosterone, they would grow to be taller, and you would have things like that. But it's almost entirely like bone structure stuff. And it's, some bone structure stuff can still be corrected. Like I've had facial feminization surgery, which was, feminizing all the bones in my face to make me look pretty. And so there's that. But like that's when you start having those sorts of things happen. But if you don't do HRT, then you do the other puberty, and you'll also have irreversible changes happening, right? And this is where I'm always like, if you're saying a 15-year-old can't know what gender they are, then or I don't know, like then
do all kids go on puberty blockers?
Right, right. If you're saying a 12-year-old can't, or 11-year-old can't know what gender they are, then your answer is all kids should be on puberty blockers until they get to a point where they have to go through a puberty, and then they should have to make a decision, right? And things like that, right? But nobody's arguing for that, right? That's ridiculous, right? But there's this weird like, well, cis people can of course know that they're cis, but trans people somehow can't know that they're trans. Like they're like, well, how did I know I was a girl at age 6? I was like, I don't know. How did you know, right? When you were that age, right? I don't know. So, surgery still, age 14, 15, 16, still surgeries, not really, no,
Not a thing.
right? There are some that can happen at 16 or 17, almost entirely transmask top surgeries, right?
Hmm. And I mean, at this point, that's almost entirely, I mean, severe dysphoria to the part that it's a life-saving surgery at that point. They're not doing it at that age.
Yeah, it's vanishingly few. It's like a couple hundred a year. And there was a recent study that actually came out and was like going after that number and actually saying, actually, when you look at these, it looks like an awful lot of them are just cis girls getting reductions.
When I
Right.
think
Not
cisgender boys who have developed breast
yes,
tissue that is
yes,
being removed.
yes. It's also cis boys with gynecomastia, which is some shocking percentage of.
Yeah, it is the vast majority, I think, of.
Yeah, it's a huge number of cis guys that have some amount of more feminine type breast tissue, and so they want to get that corrected because it makes sense. Gender affirming care for everybody. We love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but they want to do that, and so they go forward with that. And then there are the transmask people, transmasculine, for those just dropping lingo in here. Transmasculine people who would get that top surgery and whatever, but that's again very, very rare. And it's, it's like you said, it's got to be somebody who is really, really, really struggling.
And would
and
have had to have gone through all manner of therapy and such first.
we've got a question here. I may have missed your answer when the link crashed about the organization sponsoring you and any ministry / mission / advocacy work you may be doing in your new country.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess, should we finish talking? Where are we in gender?
Yeah, let's finish out because I think we're close to there.
I think so.
Real like any other surgeries. And by the way, there are thousands of breast augmentations done on cis girls in this country, age 16, 17, every single year, right? Which is like 10x the maximum number of transmask surgeries that might be happening. So we're already like, okay, if you're going to be against surgery at this age, be consistent, please. And things like that. Also, regret rates continue to be rare. We'll talk about regret rates in a minute. But then we've got like bottom surgeries or facial feminization surgeries, things like that. Those are pretty much exclusively 18 plus.
Oh, absolutely.
Jack Turbin's book gave one exception that made sense to me, and he was like, these are pretty much 18 plus, but here's an exception that might happen. You've got let's say a trans girl that has been through puberty blockers, hormones for 5-10 years now, right? Never blinked at her gender identity. This is who she is. Everybody knows her as this, and she's about to go into college, right? And doesn't turn 18 until like September when she's starting college. She's on the young end of her grade, right?
I was a college freshman who had a September birthday and turned
there
18.
You go, right? Somebody who's turning 18, a few weeks after they get to college, or something like that. And that one, he did say he was aware of at least one case where they went ahead and did bottom surgery at the start of the summer between her high school, between high school graduation and the start of college, because it gave her the opportunity to go to college and never have to tell anybody, right? Like she could go immediately, completely stealth. Nobody would ever know. So it was for, her safety, comfort, everything like that, allowed her to recover over the course of, the summer, and things like that, and not have to take time off from school. And so that was the only case that he seemed to be aware of that happening. But it's something like, the max stats I've seen is like something like 20 a year. And even those, the way they're coded, could very easily be intersex surgeries that are addressing whatever at that age. That they easily could be that, but the number of actual, the number of what we think of as bottom surgery, right? Like that's happening before 18 is like vanishingly small. It's incredibly low. I also just wanted to bring up, people bring up like the number of trans people. Oh, there's so many more trans people now or whatever, which maybe there are, or at least maybe more of them are out. And why is that bad? I don't understand why that's bad. And they throw around like 3 to 5% are identifying as, some version of not cis, which, okay, sure. Why is that bad? I'm still not hearing a problem here. I will say when I did the numbers, it came out that something like 99% of kids right now who don't identify as cis do not pursue medical care. That they are some form of gender nonconforming, but they are not interested in medical transition as teens. If you look at like the numbers of people getting medical care versus people identifying as trans, it's different. That may be because it's so difficult to get care, and so that may be a little bit of indicative of we've got an access problem here. But also, like, I just want people to also be aware that like medical transition isn't for every trans person, but for those trans people who need it, it's huge, right? So, and regret rates are unbelievably rare, right? Like I've never seen a study with regret rates higher than 3%, right? So
yeah, and that, I think I mentioned it earlier in talking about, how my daughter helped make this decision, that we've been very clear with her about the wide range of possibilities. That trans people may choose not to do medical transition, and that's valid, or they may choose certain elements of medical transition. And so, even at the doctor, when we go, the questions have been like, what do you want from your body? Like, when you grow up, how do you imagine yourself as an adult? And sort of named the options. And so, to be clear to those who don't know, that she knows that we support transition, no transition, some magic third thing. That this is not something we are pushing her into, that we see her as who she is, regardless.
No, and I told my my non-binary trans kid the same thing. I was like, look, you can come out to us as many times as you want, as many things as you want, and we will just keep snapping to whatever you tell us. It's fine.
Absolutely.
We will always support whatever it is that you tell us, and we'll go with it. So you let the kid lead on that. I know when I was trying to figure out my gender identity and what I should do, I remember trying to ask trans people, okay, so am I trans? And they'd be like, I can't answer that for you. That's for you, right? Ask my therapist, am I trans? I don't know. Are you? Right? Like, here are some things you can try that might help you answer that for yourself. But like the community as a whole, like I know that maybe there's a little bit of controversy about it at this point, but the whole idea of the trans prime directive of you never tell somebody they're trans if they haven't figured it out themselves, but like that's a thing in the community, is like nobody, like, far from pushing this on anybody. We're like super scared of whatever, and we don't want people to transition if that's not right for them, because we know what gender dysphoria feels like.
Right.
And we wouldn't wish it on our worst enemy, right? Like, I never want anybody to have to experience that. So I don't want people to transition that it's not right for. But I also know that for some people, they already have gender dysphoria, and transition would help that. And they deserve to be able to do that.
And I feel like I should add to what we were talking about before and talking about top surgery and such, that those who are able to get on puberty blockers and then on HRT,
Yes.
Unless some other condition is going on, do not need top surgery. And so that is an instance of an intervention that would not be needed.
Yeah.
Granted, people are always going to come out at all different ages. And so even in the most supportive of families and the most supportive of communities and governments, you will have kids who come out as older teens or adults or senior adults. That will always be a thing. And
I look back, and it's most of my transition, like my medical transition, would not have been necessary had I been able to do puberty blockers and HRT as a teenager. I wouldn't have ever grown facial hair. My voice wouldn't be what it is right now. My hairline wouldn't have receded. I wouldn't have needed to address that. I might not have needed breast augmentation and things like that. So all those sorts of things. And then on top of that, the things that I simply can't address medically, right? My, height or, general bone structure would have developed in more feminine ways. So bottom surgery would still be needed for me. But a lot of trans people don't do that one. But the vast majority of it would not be a thing. So. We have Jen and Jacob joining here in just a minute. Pastors Jen and Jacob. It's very exciting. So they should be here in just a second. Do you want to quick answer the question in the chat there while we're waiting?
Yes. I don't know if there were two separate questions before, if you heard the first part. But as far as ministry, mission, advocacy work, I mentioned that I do have a separate job that's a part-time job that will help be part of the income that we need, but as part-time, it's not enough to qualify. But where I am the remote faith formation coordinator at a church just south of Boston. And so I will continue to do that wherever in the world we are. But as far as our collective becoming is not a religious organization. The idea is building community in the sense of sort of mutual aid. So the idea is we want to create the world that we long for. And so community building in terms of being a safe space for others who may need to walk the same path that we do, or just and making sure that neighbors are taking care of each other.
Awesome. Hello, Pastors Jen and Jacob.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to be with you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So exciting to have you here. Meet Jen. Meet Pastors Jen and Jacob.
Hello,
Hi,
Jen and
Jen.
Jacob.
Hi, good to meet you. Thanks for sharing your story with everybody. It's an honor to be part of this and to be helping to support your family and send love to your family.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Pastors Jen and Jacob, I can introduce, and then if you can say a little bit more about yourselves. So you both are the pastors at the I can say names. You guys are both talk about the church all the time here. So I'm always like, oh, should I say at Claremont UCC, Claremont United Church of Christ. And this is the church that I go to when I go to church, and you guys are both great, and it's lovely to have you here. You both have been so supportive of the trans community. We'll talk a little bit about the thing a couple weeks ago that you guys did. That was amazing to see you show up that way. But do you guys want to introduce yourselves a little bit more?
Yeah, we'd love to. You want to go first, Jen?
Yeah, sure. I'm Pastor Jen, and this is Pastor Jacob, and we have been co-pastoring the church, Claremont United Church of Christ, here in Claremont, Southern California, for 9 years now. And it's an inclusive, progressive Christian church. It's been around for
34 years.
34 years. So I think a lot of people don't realize that mainline Christian denominations that are rooted in Christian values and in the Bible can actually be really old churches with really progressive ideas and really forward-thinking ways of understanding scripture and understanding how it informs the way that we live and think and act towards one another in our society and in our world. It's a great community for us. We've found a home here, and we feel like it's just one way that we as people and as pastors are able to share what we think is God's call to be loving people in the world through our message, through our actions, through our connections with people, and through the ways that we call community members to action.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I have been working on advocacy with the trans community since we were not co-pastors.
Right.
Back in Lincoln, Nebraska, when we were associates at 2 different churches, and we were taken under the wing of some members of the trans community in Lincoln, where they were not experiencing as much support as they may in more progressive spaces like we have here in California. And so to be in an incredibly red state was a massive challenge.
Right.
So just learning from them and learning what the issues were about and how to be advocates, that was a really important part of who we are as pastors, to be formed within that community and try to bring that advocacy to our church here in California.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And so we are here talking about, we've been having lots of amazing conversations. Oh my gosh, I've loved today so much. We had a little bit of a kind of low key most recent hour as Jen and I just kind of did a little bit of Ask Us Anything and just kind of chatting. We were just talking about gender affirming care and what all goes into that and whatever. But every conversation so far has been amazing. And usually I'm getting to the end. I'm like, wait, what? I thought we just started. But it's really good. But for the, generally what we're talking about here and relevant to the Harris Dault family as they are trying to protect their trans daughter and get somewhere safe, is we're talking about protecting the trans community, protecting trans kids in particular. And I was wondering if you guys would share a little bit about kind of what motivates you to, particularly as pastors, right? Like you said, I know you are both familiar with having to do the I'm a pastor but not that kind, right?
All the time.
Yeah, and people being surprised at your take and surprised at you wanting to advocate on behalf of the trans community. So maybe if you can talk a little bit about kind of what motivates you guys, particularly as pastors, to do that.
Yeah, I would say for me, the call to ministry is a call to serve God's people and to let them know that God's love is transformative and it's redemptive. And a huge part of that is recognizing and sharing the message that is written over and over again in scripture, which is that God is always on the side of the oppressed. God is always on the side of the marginalized. God is working with and through people to bring the people on the margins into the center. And that, I think, is the call of the church. It's a huge part of Christ's ministry, is letting people know that no matter who they are, no matter how they've been stigmatized, no matter how they've been told they don't belong or they've been outcast, they do belong. That God doesn't see all of these worldly things that society has created as barriers, but God sees what's in the heart and God loves all of us. God doesn't create with mistake. God creates with intention, and that intention is diverse and it's beautiful and it's to be celebrated. So for me as a pastor, that's my message. That that's obviously an inclusive message, and I think our world has worked really hard to create these boundaries to tell people at a very young age what is okay and what is not okay about them, and how they can be accepted and how they can be not accepted. And so I think a lot of our work is undoing that and retooling people's brains and hearts to know that they are loved and accepted just the way they are, that they are inherently good, and that goodness can be cultivated and grown and then shared out in the world with others. And I just want to say to Jen, like, your story, like as a fellow mother, I feel like it touched me so much, because there's nothing that I wouldn't do for my kid. There's no like limit to that I would not go to like protect my child, to make sure she's safe, to make sure she has whatever healthcare she needs, whatever support she needs. And that's not just as a pastor, that's as a parent. Like, there's just, it doesn't make sense to me that there are places in our country, many places, where kids they're not safe. They don't feel like it's not even just accepted. It's like they're not safe the way they are. And so I just related to that story in the sense that I would do anything to protect my kid, and that it's like a painful thing to recognize that other parents are having to relocate to protect their children. I'll let you talk now.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
For me, just ministry wise, it's about people and remembering the time I met a family who had a 4-year-old who insisted that she was in the wrong body. And to just understand that this is something that a lot of folks feel and know from the time that they're little. And it's such an innate part of who they are. And to see this 4-year-old, this beautiful, wonderful 4-year-old, and as a pastor, to just be called to care and love this child. And then to meet other trans adults and to see them as humans with wisdom and heart and compassion, and to know that this is God's child. Like, that was, as a minister, it should be so easy to make that leap, to meet someone and to trust them and to trust their understanding of themselves and their identity, and to provide them with love because they are a child of God. That I wish was a no-brainer for every single minister. And it's a lot. I think a lot of it's just knowing people and hearing their story and coming to know them. I think one of the most powerful experiences of my ministry was back in Lincoln when we worked with a member of the trans community to set up a lunch with a bunch of conservative pastors. We just emailed all the pastors in the city and said, hey, we understand that you scripturally don't support the trans community, but we think a lot of that's just based in misunderstanding and probably never having met a trans person before. So would you be willing to come to a lunch with a trans person and ask questions and just learn more and be open? And I think there were 10 pastors that took us up on that. And they came and they asked a lot of questions. And afterwards, there were hugs all around. And the conclusion was from these pastors, we don't know where we are right now, theologically or scripturally, but so good to meet you. And we love you. And thank you for being you. And that's what it is. It's just.
Yeah. And I just want to say that in that case and in so many other cases, including Celeste recently, which you referenced this event, trans people are so brave, because in that, what Jacob's talking about, that luncheon in Lincoln, Nebraska, how many years ago was that now? 10, 11 years ago. This trans woman came into a room full of people knowing that she was going to have to defend who she was as a person, and why that was biblically sound, and it was just like, her bravery was so inspiring to me. And I felt the same way when Jacob recounted to me the live in-person event that, I don't know if you want to talk about that now or in a little bit, but it's incredibly brave that trans people are stepping out into the world, knowing that it's not there are not safe spaces In fact, you go into unsafe spaces in order to share this message, and it's so important and it's so brave.
Yeah. I mean, every trans person, I think, probably understands what it is that there are safer spaces and less safe spaces, right? Like, it's pretty rare when we get a truly safe space, right? You know, even going to a mall or whatever, like, I'm always watchful, right? And it takes less work now, so it's not constantly on my mind, but I'm always aware when I'm seeing, the logo on someone's shirt or whatever, that I'm like, okay, that's going to be somebody, or if I stop at a gas station at, middle of nowhere, I'm like, okay, who's around that I need to just kind of make sure that I keep an eye on, because if they're having a bad day, I remember we were at a gas station on a road trip with a family, and like, there was somebody who saw me and clearly was upset, right? But they weren't going to come after me. It was some guy, and he was 6 inches shorter than me and whatever. Like, he wasn't going to actually try and mess with me. But at one point, my kid was kind of in his way, and like, he like looked at my kid and was like, "Oh, you got to watch where you got," right? He got like irrationally whatever at my kid. My kid got kind of really upset at this. And when we got back into the car, I had to explain to my kid, I was like, they weren't mad at you, they were mad at me, right? Like, they couldn't come after me, so they went after, I think my kid was like 8 at the time, right? And just took out their regret. And it's heartbreaking to see people like that. And it's like, you could have just asked a question, right? Or you could have said nothing, right? Any of this would have been an option. But so yeah, no, the event a couple weeks ago, Jacob, do you want to talk about that? Because you were instrumental in that coming together. So do you want to talk about what
Sure. So a teacher in the Chino Valley Unified School District reached out to me and Jen. And if you're watching and you don't know much about the Chino Valley Unified School District, they're one of the school districts in California that have members who have been hand selected by a local megachurch to serve on that board and to promote extreme radical conservative beliefs. And so they have been passing a lot of policies through the years to attack the LGBTQ plus community. They've passed edicts to ban books that have anything to do with the LGBTQ plus community. They have forced outing policies so that if any child requests a different pronoun than is on their birth certificate, then the school is forced to tell the parents and to out the child, even if the child doesn't feel safe doing that. And they have passed bans on transgender students participating in sports and any number of policies that you can imagine a school board passing. They've done it. They've been sued multiple times and seemingly don't care. So a lot of taxpayer dollars have been gone towards defending the school district from all these lawsuits. And the board president in particular is very vocal in her hateful rhetoric towards the LGBTQ plus community. So this teacher reached out to us and just said, hey, is there anything we can do to present, because this school district couches so much of what they do under the guise of Christian rhetoric? Is there any way that we can respond with a different Christian message? And so our idea was taking from what we saw some colleagues do in Redlands, where they are in a very similar situation. And we said, well, let's compose a letter outlining why our Christian beliefs lead us to believe that these policies are harmful to LGBTQ plus students in the district and why we care about protecting them. Let's write all of that down and get as many clergy to sign this document as we can. And so I think that there were 30 Christian leaders, and we put it out to a group of people, and there were some non-Christian leaders that wanted to sign on to it as well. And so we said, hey, look, we want to come at this in this instant from a Christian perspective, just because they're using Christian language, and we don't want them to say, oh, these are not Christians who are bringing this to us, so we don't even care about them, which is what they would do. despite the importance of interfaith work. So we had a Christian version, and then we had an interfaith version. 30 Christian leaders signed on to the first, 32 interfaith leaders signed on to the second. And we tried to gather a group of people to read the statement in its entirety at the school board meeting. And Celeste, you went to that and provided your own statement afterwards, which was so powerful. And like you said, Jen, so brave. And it was, I think there were 6 of us who were reading the statement. In the middle of it, the school board president stood up and said, "This blasphemy makes me want to vomit," and walked out of the room. And then, oh my gosh. And
We'll have
then,
Billie on in a few minutes, and she'll have things to say about that for sure.
oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, at the end of the meeting, each school board member got to say their own comment, and each one made sure to reference us and say that they didn't understand why we were there and why we had to do that. And that they thought one person said that at least we're not lukewarm in our faith, and various negative comments. So
To which we wanted to say, we are not lukewarm either. We are
Right.
very passionate about our inclusivity. This is absolutely the hill that we will die on, is
Right.
God loves everyone, and we will spread that message until we have no breath left in our lungs.
Yeah.
So,
I was like,
not lukewarm.
lukewarm doesn't result in you taking a night to go and talk
Right.
to a hostile school board, right?
Yes. Right.
very much not lukewarm.
Yeah.
Not the definition of that's not what I imagine when I think of lukewarm. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so this is just a first attempt to at least let the school board know that there are people of faith who see and hear what they're doing,
Right.
and as Christians have a different opinion
Mm-hmm.
and believe very strongly that our God calls us, like you said, to love of all people. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I thought it was super powerful. I felt lucky to even just get to see it happen. I had to avoid tearing up too much because I think I had my makeup done, and I was like, okay, can't let it get away from me. But just seeing Christian leaders go and fight for queer students was just such a powerful thing that we don't see enough of. That we were talking with Rabbi Daniel earlier today, and talking about we need to see more, particularly because so much of the anti-queerness is coming from from evangelical Christians. We need to see a lot of energy. So I so much appreciate you guys putting the work in on that and making that happen and providing that counterbalance. I'm wondering in your at Claremont UCC, what are some of the types of things you do, to try and make sure trans people feel welcome, and maybe even trans kids specifically? I know I had so much joy about this, of like trans and gender nonconforming. The next generations are awesome, like Gen Z, Gen Alpha. They're just, I love them so much. But like I got to like play chaperone to a queer prom that some of the youth group was going to, and it was just so delightful. But my goodness, everybody just showed up all fabulous. But there's a couple non-binary people, and then there was one person who doesn't a boy that doesn't identify as trans, but also came like in a full dress and looking incredible. And I was like, you got to teach me makeup like right now. But, it was phenomenal, and it was just such a welcoming thing, right? Like the fact that they felt comfortable showing up at a church and doing that. I'm just wondering, like, how do you cultivate that kind of a space?
I mean, honestly, that's something I think we're the most proud of right now at our church, is that we have such a diverse congregation. We have so many queer people, not just adults, but we do have queer kids in our youth group. We have trans kids in our youth group. Some are out, some are not. We have non-binary kids. And it's so great because I think it starts with having those connections and being, again, not lukewarm, being really outward facing with our messaging, and the adults respond to that, and then they realize this is a safe place to bring their kids and to raise their families. And so that's how our church keeps growing and how these families find us. And it just, I'm so proud of the fact that our message is out there and it's bringing in people and they feel safe and they're staying. And the kids are just, it's the most amazing youth group. We had like 50 kids in Sunday school this past Sunday. We had a pumpkin palooza last week and there were like over 43 kids that came and carved pumpkins, and just seeing everyone in that space together, being themselves and just knowing that they're accepted there, that they're loved. And there's nothing better as a pastor than seeing that kind of diversity, especially among our youth. And I think again, it's not being lukewarm. It's being really open about our message and our inclusivity and proclaiming that far and wide. And I think that's how we cultivate that.
Yeah. And I think part of it's too having a posture of you can always do it better. And there's always opportunity for growth. We're an accessible to all church, which means we try to make all of our decisions through the lens of how we can become more accessible to folks with disabilities. And it's a recognition of you're never there, you've never arrived, you're never a fully accessible church.
Mhm.
And so I think it's, like you said, being very passionate with our messaging and at the same time always saying, we can keep growing. We can be more inclusive of our queer kids and giving them a safe space. And so let's keep learning and growing with that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I love that so much, and I have seen that in the few years that I've been witness to what you're doing. I've seen exactly that happening as you're kind of constantly looking for where can we get better at this, where can we get better at this. Okay, right now I am so excited, and I know that Pastors Jen and Jacob have to leave, so I'm going to do this real quick because I have been wanting to do this all day. Billy, come back on camera, please, because I finally get to connect Pastors Jen and Jacob to Billy, and Billy
Yes.
to Pastors Jen and
Hello,
Jacob.
Billy.
Hi, Billy.
Hi.
I'm a
Hi.
huge fan.
Yes, I'm a big fan already.
No,
So
Billy,
good to meet
seriously.
you in person.
Yeah, Billy,
You too.
seriously, when I mentioned that like you two were going to be crossing paths, Jacob to Jacob on Sunday, Jacob was like, "Oh my gosh, I see Billy all over on social media. I love her so much." And
That's so
you
sweet.
two- yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. It's good to meet y'all, and I'm so glad to be here. This is so exciting.
Likewise.
It is.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, thanks for the time,
This
Celeste.
was great. Thank you
Yes.
for the conversation.
All right.
We
thanks.
just we send all of our love to the Dault family, and I wish we weren't all gathering under these circumstances. I wish it were for something more celebratory, but
Well, maybe
we're
someday we'll do that.
I hope so. I
Deal.
hope so. Yeah. Deal.
All right. Sounds
All right.
good. Well,
Thank
you guys.
you.
Have a wonderful night.
Bye. Have a good convo. Bye, Billy.
Bye. Yeah, it's good to meet you. Briefly.
Good to meet
We gotta do it
you.
longer sometime. I gotta get
Yes.
out.
Yes.
All right. And Sam.
Oh my gosh.
Hello.
Sam!
Hello, it's so good to have you here too. Also, I didn't mean to leave you out of the previous whatever. It's great to have you here. I'm glad you could make it.
Yeah,
I
look
saw
at
you
this
on
crew. We
the-
haven't gotten this band together in a minute.
right? I think
That's
since
true.
I was in DC, so which
Yeah.
is
No,
silly.
right.
We should do this more often.
You live on the wrong side of the country, Celeste.
Well, I mean, we can at least do it virtually, but
That's
Miche
true.
was trying to sell me on moving to Richmond earlier today. So, but I said my kid.
I'm pro Miche on this one.
I think my kids would actually murder me. But
Richmond is fun. I'm usually there for like boring political meetings, but I always enjoy it when I'm there.
you have no idea how much I wish that I lived close to all of you over there.
Yeah, no, me and Billy have no excuse for hanging out because it's like,
No,
it takes like what 40 minutes to get to you. Like,
I know, right? It's
It's
like,
All right, we're gonna have Jenna on in an hour, and I live.
I know. Then I
like
get to be
40
jealous.
What's that?
Then I get to be jealous.
Yeah, and I live like, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes from her, somewhere in there. Until a couple months ago, I think we'd ever seen each other in person once. So now we're doing it more. It's great. It's wonderful. I'm very happy that has happened, and we're doing that more frequently. So we're going to be don't know if I can. I don't know. Jennifer Knapp's in town this weekend, and so we've got a
That'll be
group
a fun
going
show.
to Jennifer Knapp on Saturday. So very
I
excited.
haven't seen her since last year's Wild Goose.
Okay. Yeah, we
Bill,
saw
your mic is really quiet on my end.
Oh,
don't know if
I mean, try to
everybody
pop
hears
that up then here. I can
There we go.
eat it.
There we go.
Just eat it.
Perfect.
See if I can.
All right. Well, how are both of you doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Yeah.
Good Tuesday. I know it's late there already. I'm not late, but like evening late.
8:30.
Yeah.
Sorry, hold on just one second.
My kids were just going to bed, so we were just carving pumpkins before bed because we put off necessary Halloween things until like apparently the last minute.
We have not carved pumpkins in years, and I feel bad about just now. But
the kids demand it. I think we did it 2 years in a row, maybe 3 years back, 4 years back, and now they will start asking once we get within about 2 weeks of the holiday.
That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, it's a good time.
We have nowhere really to put pumpkins. Like nobody walks by our house like ever. So just where we are in our apartment complex is like there's like 3 other apartments that would like that their people would have reason to walk past our door, and that's it. That is the sum total of people who walk past our door.
This is the joy of a Baltimore townhome.
I know, right?
I think our neighborhood does trick-or-treating, but we're kind of way off this side path, so I don't know if we get any or not. And I think we have plans on Halloween night.
Yeah.
And like I wanted to put pumpkins out, but everyone told me that the squirrels here are really aggressive, and if you put a pumpkin out, like you're just feeding squirrels.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
Yeah. We have some friends. There's like a neighborhood we go to do trick-or-treating with like a group of friends of ours that we've been doing this with for like a decade now. And there's one cul-de-sac that's one of my favorites because like all of the adults on the cul-de-sac come out and do a bonfire in the middle of the cul-de-sac on Halloween. And so you can go up there and get like cider and hot chocolate and coffee while the kids are doing their thing. Right. It's very like suburban 80s joy for parents.
No, your neighborhood is awesome. I love your neighborhood.
I like it.
Yeah. It's
we
great.
just moved, and so the house we just we got the house feeling functional in the last couple weeks. So we're still
y'all are new.
We just moved almost 4 years ago, and we need to understand how you got your house functional because I'm not sure we've done that yet. But I'm going to have each of you kind of introduce yourself. Who are you? What are you about? And things like that. In the time that you do that and chat a little bit, I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break because I've been, I think, here for the last 3 hours. So I'm going to take a real quick break, use the restroom, maybe grab a snack to bring back with me, and I will be right back. But for now, if you guys can intro and then chat amongst yourselves a little bit about why we're here and everything, then I will be back when I can.
Sounds good. Oh, there she goes. Sam, who are you and what brings you to this channel?
So I am Samantha Perez. My pronouns are she and her. I live in the Northern Virginia area, the suburbs of Washington, D.C. I got connected with all the lovely folks on this live stream through involvement in queer trans spaces. I'm involved in my church. I go to a United Methodist Church. I'm our congregation's representative to annual conference. So I go vote on policy and doctrine and stuff and do all the fun, nerdy politicking. Also, I do activism in this area. I'm vice president of a nonprofit called Equality Arlington. We're hyper local activism. We do activism for LGBT folks here in Arlington County. Lately, a lot of that work has been with both the public health system, making sure that there is access to STI testing and trying to shore up defenses against coming attacks against PrEP and contraception and things like that. And we've been doing a lot of work with the school boards because the Northern Virginia school districts were early in the crosshairs of the Trump administration trying to take funding away from the school system if they didn't remove protections for transgender kids and students.
Oh, yeah, I
And so
remember
that has taken up a lot of our time and energy, because we've done rallies for trans kids in front of the school to tell the school board to stay strong, and it's gotten some attention. My face was on Fox News about being a radical activist, and so it's been a time. It is.
Yeah.
We started this organization a couple of years ago, and year 1 and year 2 have been very, very different.
Oh my gosh, girl. I saw that. I saw a lot of the like I mean, I remember kind of I follow you. So like seeing the stuff you're doing, but also I was thinking about while you're talking, I was thinking about I think it was Ben Greene on this stream earlier today was talking about how Virginia is like currently the testing ground for like every politician in America deciding whether or not they're going to run on an anti or pro or whatever, what they're going to do with trans people in terms of their platform next year. So, no stress there.
Yeah, and
No
it's
pressure.
weird, right? Because like you can see politicians trying to triangulate from the national election,
Mhm.
and in the state race that's happening here, particularly for the GOP governor candidate has made more than half of her talking points about trans people and trans kids. Like literally using my opponent is for they and them, and I'm for you. Like just literally doing the Trump ad again. And then the Democrat candidate is reacting pretty much the same way that we did in the 2020 election, which is just pretend to not talk about it. And it's fascinating to watch it go completely the other way. Like in specific polling about trans issues, Spanberger is polling like 15 points ahead. It's just not working for them this time. Wow. And it's just a weird example of how there's just really something unique about Trump's brand of hatred, that like he's the only one that makes it not just like cringe and sad. And like when anyone else is up there doing the same thing, it's like, what is your problem? Like leave these kids alone. And like it just, even among a conservative audience, it doesn't land. Like there's something turbocharged about the way Trump hates people that just lets him get away with stuff that is pitiful and mean and sad if anyone else does it.
Yeah. No, I think that's right.
Yeah, and it's unclear to me whether or not his ads were actually effective or whether Democrats just wanted to scapegoat us. But yeah,
I mean, they were referenced a lot. Like, they came up in a lot of polling. I think they weren't effective in the exact one-to-one way that people think they were effective. They obviously they came up a lot, and I think they did some of the stuff they were expecting to. I do think we oversimplify the impact of them, because obviously just doing them again doesn't work. So
right. Yeah, they definitely, I think, probably helped with. From what I heard, they did definitely.
Gosh, I was in a sports bar when those ads first started playing, and so I'm sitting at this bar, and that ad comes on, and literally like the people at the bar turn and look at me. I was like, oh God. Okay,
yeah,
this is what it feels like to be about to die in a slightly different town.
Yikes!
Yeah, I had a similar experience in an airport when one of those played when they first came out. That was like this waitress looking at me with this like terrified look on her face as this ad is playing directly over my head on a television, and I'm like, I swear I just want to order some chicken wings.
Okay. Yeah, but to the question, also, like I said, I'm on the stream because I got connected with a lot of folks through queer religious circles, and we already talked about it earlier in the stream, but I showed y'all around town when you were in town for the protests, so I've gotten to meet y'all and gotten to meet Jen, and so I'm really glad to be part of this.
Which was wonderful.
Hey, Jordan.
We have some
in the chat.
The chat.
Jordan said,
"Oh, he's right behind you."
Oh my gosh, Jordan! How's it going? All right.
Very cool.
Laptop for the chat to work. Okay.
Billy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I should introduce myself, shouldn't I? Okay, so I'm Billie Hoard. I am a writer. I am a friend of both Celeste and Jen, so I'm really excited to be here. I've been waiting all day. Let's see, a lot of things. Oh yeah, hey, like I got one of you. I got
showing off our copies.
We can do the thing. We can do the thing.
Book.
There we are.
Right. We all three have it. Okay. I'm a high school teacher, and I actually think I might talk about that some today. Like I used to do more than I have been able to in the last 3 years. I used to do a lot of LGBT youth advocacy work. That led to some painful experiences. Fortunately, the organization I was a part of is still going strong and doing really, really good work. I don't know. I'm an Anabaptist. Like I said, connected through like the religious and also queer and trans world with all these good people.
Joined and left multiple trans femme Christian group chats together.
We did. We have absolutely. We are the survivors. There's a couple others, right? But they're like we're the survivors of of numbers of like these things form and they drift apart and things happen. So yeah, I think that's me. I'm a high school teacher. So I was asking Jen questions about like how teachers can support queer kids earlier on in the chat because ask about what you know about. Yeah. So yeah, thinking about like trans is both from the like being trans side of things, but also from the like being actively engaged with queer youth side of stuff. I think that's kind of my background and where I'm coming from, what I'm thinking about. Where do we want to go with this, Celeste?
All right. So yeah, I'm just excited that we have people chiming in over in the chat. Everything. By the way, for those of you who are in the chat, I'm gonna do the live stream fundraiser thing here. There's a link down in the description, and it's a really cool link because it lets you donate to help protect the Harris Daults and their trans daughter, and it's very worth clicking. And you should just try clicking it because clicking links is fun. So. And anyway, yes, all gifts we've settled on. All gifts are awesome. Monthly gifts are awesomer. So, but seriously, whatever. Even just sharing the need, sharing the blog post that's linked there, sharing the link to this live stream when it's all done. Any number of things, getting the word out, all helpful. And also, while we're here, if anybody has questions for Billy or Sam or myself, feel free to throw them in the chat and we will do our best to get to them. But today has been super fun. Highly recommend everybody go back and listen to all 5.5 hours we've done so far.
You're still here. You're making it. You're going to make it.
It's great. We're having a lot of fun. Every single conversation has been amazing and like a quarter of the length that I want it to be, because every single one of them I have finished with like, are you kidding me? How can it already be time? That doesn't, something is breaking with
you've got a bunch of podcast chases after this. So
what's that?
I said you got a bunch of podcast chases after this. You're like, all right, hey, let's do an episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to chop this one up and finally actually create a podcast stream and throw these in there.
That's a good call.
All my sprinkle videos and whatever. And I'll finally get the Celestial Navigation podcast populated with stuff like this. But
more chances to get that link up there too.
Exactly. That's the goal, is to get that thing out there, get people helping out. So anyway, yeah. So yes, we are here. I would love to talk with both of you. We're talking like protect trans kids. Both of you have been active in different ways and overlapping ways in that. And then yes, Billy wins the On Brand Award.
I'm trying to do like the Dan McCullen thing and be like the fit. Anyway, go ahead.
The fit today is protect trans kids. Yes,
always.
It's perfect. Yeah. So I'm curious both about just perspectives on protecting trans kids, the work that you guys have done, are doing, and then I'd also love to talk about, this was something I planned on talking with Billy about, but Sam, I think you would have perspective on this too, and we've already kind of touched on it, but like, where is all this coming from? right? Like, and by all this, I don't mean trans people. I mean, where is all the like anti-transness coming from?
We pop up like mushrooms, Celeste. It's because there's a really big rain in 2014, and all of a sudden we just came out of nowhere.
I mean, the transdemic was a thing, but but that's a whole other thing. But anyway, but like, where is all this anti-trans stuff coming from? Why is this a thing? Why are people trying to make, Jennifer and her family and her daughter's life difficult? Where is that coming from? Like, I think is the thing I kind of hope to start our conversation with.
I'll take fascism for 300. No, so Sam, please jump in and interrupt me because I'm going to just nerd out now. No, but genuinely fascism. I'm completely done beating around the bush on labeling the current right-wing movement in this country as fascist. Like, it's fascist, and I think if we understand it as fascist and we understand how fascism itself actually works, what's happening now actually makes a lot more sense, because fascism is, I've started referring to it, and I like this framing, so let me know what you think in the chat. But I think fascism as a politics is the apotheosis of hierarchy and disgust as a politics, right? It is the ultimate expression of hierarchy, of a politics of hierarchy and of disgust, which is to say that fascism is obsessed with the idea that there is one very, very specifically defined type of person that makes up who the nation should be, and everybody else is less really the nation than that one idealized stereotype sort of type of person. And right, and in the case of like white Christian nationalist fascist, the iteration that we have right now, right, it's a white straight guy who is a sort of conservative Christian who is able-bodied, etc. Right, it's sort of that thing you think of. In fact, you started seeing them the type on some of the propaganda that the government has been putting out. Right, these kind of like 1950s square cut, square jawed men that sort of ooze homoerotic, but pretending you're not, sort of energy, and the denial homoerotic, not the good homoerotic. No, right? Like, there's some, anyway, sorry, not going there. Kids. We were talking about kids, we're not going there because fascists are really disturbing. Okay, so it's the yeah, this is true, right? No, but like fascism is trying to define the nation, and you create this hierarchy. So the closer you are to that ideal, the more in you are, and the further away from it you are, the less in you are. And this is why people of color, but also queer people, are particularly on the outs. Also, fascism historically hates Jewish people. That's just a thing too. But you're more on the outs. And at the same time, the primary tool that fascism has at its disposal for trying to convince regular people, who I will define as like not very good and not very bad, just regular people, to like get on board with the fascist project, is disgust. Right? It is this, and disgust works by trying to convince you that a particular person or type of person cannot be allowed to define who we are, cannot be allowed to define like that the nation, right? That like our identity would be in danger if this person is included as one of us. And queer people are really, really, really popular among fascists for exactly this reason, because queerness is generally unsettling. Like, it sort of enters the picture as unsettling to cis people, to straight people, to allosexual people, right? Like, to those who define themselves as the norm, queerness is unsettling. I think for a number of reasons. One is that like we pop up in your families, we pop up, right? Like you can't sort of predict it. It just, sometimes people are queer, and we're awesome that way, but they don't like it. And that
I already quoted Andor earlier today with "I have friends everywhere," right?
We do have friends everywhere.
Right,
and if you get rid of all of us, we'll still have friends everywhere.
Still have friends everywhere. You can't get rid of it. Sorry, this is the part of the show where I eat my Little Caesars pizza.
Good.
So
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was starting to worry about you, so I'm glad.
I'm still here.
Like, is she going to be faint? We have not given Celeste a chance to eat in like 6 hours or something.
I actually did get to eat a little bit earlier today.
Okay.
When Jen and Rabbi Daniel talked, and now I'm gonna eat while you continue amazingly talking about disgust. Yes.
Okay, I think I'm almost done. But because of this, right? So the current MAGA movement has very much latched onto queerness as the thing that it can present as like the danger that is among us that we have to be cleansed from, right? Like they're trying to invoke a sense of disgust towards it. This is why they talk about us as though we were contagious, right? This is why they talk about the idea of transness as like they literally, like really love the whole concept of like ROGD and transness as a social contagion, something you can catch by contact, which is how disgust sort of conditions people to think and to be afraid. And the other problem is evangelical Christians, which again, strong overlap with the fascism there. It's not a perfect overlap. I try to be really careful as a scholar, but it's a strong overlap with fascism there, right? When evangelical Christians lost the culture war on gay marriage with Obergefell, they looked around and said, "What's next?" and saw transness as the like next culture war, which I don't want to say to be fair to evangelicals, but like they weren't entirely wrong about that, because also in the LGBTQ community, we got gay marriage and the trans community was like, okay, so you've been promising to actually fight for our rights for about 30 years now. Maybe it's time to do that.
You're waving our ticket number.
I know, we were like, literally, it's us. And they were kind of like, okay, fine. Also, we're a little bit embarrassed about some of what we did in the meantime. So I don't know about y'all. I'm still a little bit salty about the Human Rights Campaign, but it's like low key. They've done some good stuff since then, but I'm like low key a little bit salty about the Human Rights Campaign.
I always give them just a hint of side eye every time I walk past their booth at Pride, and then
right,
I always
and like lovely people, and I will support a lot of them. I just some things don't. It takes time to heal, and they owe me the time to heal. Anyway, but like so that was like the next thing, and evangelicals very specifically, intentionally, Al Mohler specifically has like a whole book where he's like carving out, this is the thing we have to fight for next. We'll win because they're upset about it. We need to rethink our strategies, but we're going to fight on this one next. And then we're going to use that to regain ground. Like once we have the culture attacking trans people and get everybody against trans people, we can use the momentum of that to make a new attack on gay marriage and like regain, he hoped, the ground on cis, gay, and lesbian relationships. The bi people got forgotten again because the bi people always get forgotten. Shout out to my bi friends.
Yeah, so Jordan in the chat used the phrase the party of grievances. But I think it's obviously a bigger phenomenon than like a party politic. But I think there's something tempting about the simplicity of there being a thing that is the problem and that removing it will fix. I think you see this in a lot of avenues. You see this in like a lot of the like health fads that happen, right? Like every few months there is a new thing that if you stopped eating you'd be healthy. And like there's just something, it's like the simplicity of it is nice to understand it. The achievability of it is nice. You get a little bit of kind of outsider identity because it's usually something that is in basically everything. So now you're a problem at dinner parties, and there's psychological boost to that, right? Because it's an identity. You find people like you. It's like you're now like you're going counter things, and it is usually something that you can convince people needs to get rid of because you can describe it in a scary way, like, oh, look at how many syllables this additive has. This comes from this weird part of the animal. We're not supposed to eat that. There's usually
the thing right now isn't pizza, is it?
Do what?
The thing right now isn't pizza, is it?
I think it's Tylenol right now, isn't it?
But and I think this is one of the reasons that like Christianity has been a good vehicle for it, right? Because I know growing up, when there were problems in the house, behavioral problem, or something was going wrong, growing up in the kind of small town Pentecostal tradition that I did, we would become convinced that there is something demonic in the house that we need to get rid of. This is not, it's not a family. Camp. It's not a family dynamic. It's not communication we need to have better. It's not something. It's like obviously it's this Dungeons and Dragons textbook, like Dungeons and Dragons book, and a demon came with it, and that's why this happened. Like there's this nostalgia temptation of like things used to be better and now they are not. here's a thing that solves it, and we get rid of it. And like it's just there's something in our brains that really, really likes that definition. Partly because evolutionarily, a lot of times your problems were like, no, you need to throw up right now because you ate something that is killing you. And I think, and I brought it to grievances because I feel like everybody has stacking grievances kind of all the time, right? The world is complicated and difficult, and things are hard, and you always have problems, and problems compound, and there's always a growing dissatisfaction. And even among people who have been progressive, even among people who have been growing, there's just something programmed in us that there is as things we perceive things getting worse, getting harder, just getting more complicated in a way we don't like, we're primed to be like, oh, it's this thing that changed. That's what did it.
Yep.
And if you're desperate enough, you'll just get on board. Some people enjoy being on board because like they love getting rid of whole groups of people, but it's tempting in a wider way than just people who hate for fun. Because that is it is different after we change that, and I think this is the flow of societal change, right? Things get better for a group, and then eventually there's enough people that are uncomfortable enough that are like, no, we gotta go back, and like hopefully the line keeps doing this. But sometimes things get better and then you burn down Tulsa, and then things get better and then I think we're just in the middle, like we are in one of the big backlashes that comes when there's been steady steps. Talking about Virginia, I was at my nonprofit, we did a party, we did an event for National Coming Out Day. And we had Senator Danica Roem talk with us. Danica Roem she was the first openly trans person to be elected to a state legislator in the country. But she talked about how her first term, we passed more pro-LGBT bills than had been passed in the entire history of the state. And there was a period of expanding rights, expanding comfort with this. I was a lot of people's first trans friends, and a lot of these people now have more than one. And so there was expanding happening. And I think when something has expanded quickly, it is a prime target for suspicion of latching on to actually this is why lots of things are wrong. And I think kids are at the tip of the spear for this, just because we are wired to be more protective towards kids. Everything that makes us nervous makes us 1,000 times more nervous when it's kids. And I think,
can I jump on that one real quick, Sam?
Sure.
Because that is I think you're absolutely right. I am just 100%. And one of the things I've been trying to do for the last year is to also flip that dynamic and flip that narrative. One of the things, it is generally frustrating to me that so many cis people do not experience the kind of outrage I do at the attacks on trans kids. And I also do think there's a genuine, legitimate, and also honest, good faith rhetorical opening here, because by the same token that they have that sense of hey, kids, protecting kids feels like a good and noble and right and true thing to do, right? I think we also need to turn that around and be like, look, these people don't like trans folks, and the first group they're coming after are kids. They are attacking children first, right? The fact that our community is in this morally a horrible situation in which we are being asked to moderate our position by leaving our children to the wolves, leaving the children of our community out there to have their rights stripped away. And the promise is that if you'll just make that concession, maybe we'll leave the rest of you alone. And I think it's really important to point out that the dynamic of the amount of passion that people rightly have around protecting kids plays on both sides. Sorry, I just want to I want to throw it in there because I'm really passionate about this one.
Yeah. And I think what you're getting at with something that I've been turning over, right, is that when it comes to kids, that's kind of, it forces you to put some cards on the table about kind of deep down what you think about what a trans person is. And so part of the reason right, that kids are being attacked is just because they're vulnerable and these people are cowards and bullies and they can't win fights against people their own size.
Yeah.
And part of it is, that if a kid can be trans, then trans people are a really for real type of person, as opposed to a type of lifestyle that we tolerate people choosing. And I think that's where a lot of passion is, because I do think they rhetorically see that if trans kids are a type of person that can exist, they have ceded some ground kind of forever
Right.
on the idea that no, trans people exist as a type of people.
And I think they sense that, and this is why you get them saying literally saying trans kids aren't real, like that there are no trans kids, and you're going right. And there's a weird talking past each other, because they'll be talking to me, and I'm like, you don't even say I'm not trans, and I was a kid at some point, right? It's like I was a trans kid, and then they have to get into this weird no, you were trans ed by something. Da, 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 da.
But to your point, the emotional heartstrings of our drive to protect children played, that's it can be used for that, because if you do think kids can be trans, even if you're someone who's kind of on the fence, it's horrifying to watch what these kids are going through. In Kentucky, Governor Beshear talked about how the reason he got on board was just because he heard the story of a trans, I think it was track, I forget what sport, but a trans kid in a school started a track team and then was kicked off the track team. And she's the only, at that time she was the only one in the state. And he's like, this is just cruel. Things were fine. What are we doing? And we talked about this in the chat and early in the stream, right? One of the hard parts is that it's hard to get those stories, because obviously it's terrifying to be a public trans kid, because a lot of these kids, one, just for the national attention, and two, if a lot of kids, aren't super public, aren't super, they're a little stealth, and we're fighting for a world where you can be trans and it not be a big deal, and this would make it a big deal. And and so when we're trying to, because we try to convince someone to talk to press, someone to come talk, because if anyone can take one for the team, it can help a lot building stories. But I also get it, right? Because that kind of it kind of ruins all. If no one knew, I would be tempted to be like, no, you'll handle this.
Right. No, I hear you. I mean, we ran into this back when I was doing advocacy in Anne Arundel County, and I'm a classroom teacher. I have a GSA, and there's a real moral quandary, right? I have this group of kids, and they want to end LGBTQ plus bullying, all anti-queer bullying at the school. And on the one hand, the most effective way to accomplish that is for them to loudly speak out about their experiences of being bullied. And on the other hand, that will draw ire on them first. The way that will work is that the first thing that will happen is that some really morally bankrupt people in the district who are adults will attack these children, at least verbally, if not possibly physically. They will be endangered by that. And so as a teacher, I can't ask them to do that. And I didn't, it's that's not a thing I can ask kids to take on. They're kids. Literally, as a classroom teacher, my job is to protect them, not to ask them to go put themselves in the way of danger, right? So you create this real moral quandary, because at the same time you start to think this is if that would be the way that would have the most impact in the long term, right? Because then everybody else who's kind of on the fence sees this oh my gosh, y'all, what are you doing? These are kids. You can't talk that way to kids, and these are adults talking that way to kids. Maybe we do have a problem, and maybe we should do something about it, right? This actually does create the most outrage, but you can't ask kids to do that. And so you kind of wait until some kid says, I want to, and then you're okay, but we're not doing that through the school. And so then you have to they have to get a hold of an advocacy organization and be I want to do this. And they have to say it to the advocacy organization. And the advocacy organization has to get in touch with their parents and be okay, your kid wants to do this. Do you support that? It's a really, really complicated thing. And when it happens, my gosh, those kids are heroes.
And so really the way
they shouldn't have to be, right?
They shouldn't have to be. No.
Yeah. And we talked about that earlier in the stream as well, of there's a reason why we're not using a name today, right? There's a reason why we don't have a photo today, right? And the fact that we can't have those is precisely why we're doing this, right?
Yeah.
Because if it were safe to have those, then maybe it wouldn't be necessary. But it's just, it's
Yeah, when we were doing like our rallies for the school board and whatnot, but so there were multiple times we had, like a reporter ask, like, "Can we take a statement from one of the kids?" And we have to be like, "Nope."
Nope.
Yeah,
Can't.
and it's rough. And what's rough, right, is the reason going back
Mhm.
that we're having the backlash we're having is because we're real close. Like we were getting, I don't know how close we were, but we are getting closer to a world where the kids don't have to be scared.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a press to make sure we stay in the world we're currently in, where you kind of ruin your life if you're public about this.
Yeah.
And so, like, this is not to the point of this was nowhere near to malign the bravery of these kids. They are making probably the correct choice for their survival. It is a charge for all of us to ask, why do these kids not feel safe, and how do we make it better?
No, absolutely. Like it is the job of adults to protect kids. That's the way the world is supposed to work.
Yeah.
And sometimes kids decide like this is a thing they want to stand up on, they want to speak out for.
Yeah.
Sometimes the kids and their parents in consultation decide that like the kids' long-term safety and interests are best served by speaking up now. And if they have like a home or a context where they can be safe, maybe that's the right choice. And I'm not judging anybody in any direction they make that choice. Like those are incredibly difficult decisions to make. And and those are the decisions for the kid and the family to make.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Whew.
Yeah, it got heavy.
Yeah. What was I even going to say? Wow, we covered a lot. Yeah, you mentioned
if these
RPD.
ideas were interesting to you, you can find out more.
Yes, if you want to know more about us and all of that, then Billie wrote a whole book with her brother.
It's not my ad. Give money to Jen.
Right?
Give money to Jen and tell me you did, and I'll send you a PDF of her book, but don't tell my publisher I said that.
Amazing. We love it. But seriously, the link is still there. By the way, I see my sister in the chat. We love to see it. So everybody say hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Lindsay.
Hello, Lindsay.
There we go. Big sis. So here in the chat. So that's great. And then also I was going to throw in, by the way, on the ROGD, rapid onset gender dysphoria thing, if you want to read like 17,000 words about that and how some evangelical guy said a lot of wrong things about it, my blog. But anyway, but no, it's wild seeing the scapegoating, and Billie, I love your work around the whole, they're going after the kids first. Are you kidding me? Right. And just the absolute like evil of that. Right. And of course they see themselves as protecting kids, some of them, right? But the cynical ones who know what they're doing, right? Like,
I mean, it's a culture war crime. If there's war crimes in the culture war, it's a war crime.
Yeah. I also think, it's like we're going to do Trans Day of Remembrance in a few weeks here. And like, how do you call, like, when these people use the word culture war and they say we're culture war, culture warriors, we're culture warrior, whatever. And it's like, and then you're surprised when there's casualties. Like, did you not know what you were doing? Right. Like, and also please stop right now. But I also wanted to talk because my goodness, we only have 20 minutes. But whatever. And then Jenna's joining, so
you guys Jenna's the best. Oh my gosh! Everybody stay on for Jenna. She's amazing.
Right? Yes. So anyway, I wanted to talk. I know we have talked about collectively, Billie, I know you are super vocal about this all the time. And we're trying to, I've been trying this today, I can't talk anymore.
This very day.
Anyway, this day, we've been, yes, things are hard, and also wanting to cover like, but why is trans people thriving awesome, actually, right? Like, what does that look like? And so, Billie, I know you've been, Jenna. So, and sorry, Ace Reporter says, I actually had a mom of a trans 5-year-old approach me as a reporter because of how her child was being treated for dressing how she wanted. My editor put the brakes on it because the child might not be okay with the publicity when she's older. We sent her to P Flag. Yeah, yep, that makes sense. But I wanted to talk about queerness is a blessing, transness is a blessing, and it's awesome.
Yes.
And so I wanted to just chat about, like, one thing that's been running through my mind is, like, you know, trying to tell churches, like, you need trans people, you need queer people, like, your body of Christ is missing a limb if it doesn't have queer people in it, at least one limb. And like, you need us there. And also, like, if we could just explain to you why you needed us there, you wouldn't need us there, right? Like to some extent, you need us there, and our impact on the community won't be predictable, right? It will be, it'll be what it is, and you won't be able to say ahead of time what that would be. And if you could, then and that's not how you treat any other group, right? Like, be like, oh, well, just tell us what the trans people, whatever. But anyway, when we talk about queerness is a blessing, and queerness is good, and trans thriving is awesome, and trans joy, and can we go there a little bit?
I love all of those topics. Queerness is absolutely a blessing, and I actually really love that lead in, Celeste, in terms of, like, you can't, right? So, like, it kind of sets the limitations of the discussion in the sense that, like, queerness is a blessing, and it's not a blessing you can experience absent a relationship with queer people. Like, it has to actually, in the end of the day, it is a blessing that is embodied. Like, you can get some of the blessing by reading queer texts, by listening to the music that we produce, by experiencing, like, the culture that queer people generate. But at the end of the day, it is an embodied thing, right? A person is a blessing. Each person has the capacity to make this world a better, more beautiful place. And queer people do that in a uniquely queer way. And that is, like, bring the blessing of queerness as it is shaped and lived out by each individual queer person in their lives, right? So, like, I mean, to know Celeste is a blessing, and it is a queer blessing that is a different queer blessing than it is to know Sam, right? Like, these are both queer blessings, and they are individual queer blessings. And we can talk about the queerness of it, and you still cannot, like, at the end of the day, it is still a thing that you have to experience. Like, you have to be around the person, you have to be in relationship. So I think that is, like, a really important, like, I mean, I can talk about why and how queerness is a blessing for hours, and I wrote a book about it, and I wrote, blogs about it, and all kinds of things. And none of that really gets below the surface. And I think the surface is worthwhile, right? Like, I like my skin, but I like my organs too. Like, so, like, it doesn't, that was a terrible metaphor. It doesn't get below the surface. I am just regretting my metaphor right now.
This is the Apostle Paul on the first draft of the, if no ears, where would the hearing be? He's like, I like my organs. Nah, it's throwing that.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, like, I think I heard y'all talking earlier about just, like, the experience of the way that, like, trans people free everybody up to explore and experience and play with their gender expression, to start to break down the binary of, the kind of gender binary in terms of both expectations and ways of being, and in terms of how they experience it. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I tattooed my skin. So oh my gosh. Oh, y'all let us all be on the same stream for too long together. But I'm
not sad. I won't apologize.
I do like my skin. I do. I like it. I'm not going to apologize for that one either. It's really the organs that upset me once I got to the organ. And I like my organs too. I don't deny it. It's just a terrible metaphor.
Oh my gosh. I'm just going to show all of them. Like,
oh my gosh, we're in trouble.
Right. Keep going.
Oh, okay.
If this is a
right,
this
but,
is
like,
a cure blessing that's happening right now.
This is it.
We
are living it while talking about it.
Right at the get-go, I did establish that yes, general guidelines for how today is going, but we are in fact queer people, and so rules not so much. So
you get rid of trans people, the overall quality of shit posting on the internet goes way down.
Really far down. Absolutely.
really far down.
Yeah.
It's not lost on me that I'm speaking out of turn here. So I know the Celeste video gaming community is incredibly trans.
Yeah.
And I know there's a ton of overlap between Celeste and Hollow Knight community.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which makes me think that the Hollow Knight community must be relatively trans.
I hope so.
And so it's not, I don't think, an accident that the whole silk posting phenomenon happened in the Hollow Knight community of all places.
This could be.
Given the number of trans people there. I'm going to go with that.
I'll go with it. I like it. I like the theory.
All right.
My kid's going as Hollow Knight for Halloween this year.
Oh my gosh, you have to
just to validate your theory.
So I can show it to my youngest. My youngest will be super excited.
We'll put some pictures on.
We were just talking about earlier as like one of these years we need to do a like Madeline joint cosplay between me and one or more of the kids, but
that would be cool.
Anyway,
okay.
You were saying
trans is a blessing. Queerness is a blessing. Queerness is a blessing for lots of reasons. I'm just coming up with reasons why queerness is a blessing right now because I feel like that's going to get not old. I think people like hearing it, but like I feel like I'm just going to talk a lot if we do this. I wrote an essay about it. We could just link it or something.
Cool.
And I think like during just especially in the cultural moment we're in, right? Like you said, every person is a unique blessing, and if you categorically exclude a type of person, there's categories of blessings that you will not have in your life, and it will make things work. Like Celeste said, you're missing a limb. There's just functions that you don't even realize you don't have because you just cut this whole thing off. But I think I've been thinking a lot lately about like the concept of queerness, right? And it's kind of like the more academic definitions of queerness when it comes to, taking assumptions and problematizing them, like taking a different look at the grooves that have been worn into our society. And queerness, LGBT folks, it's differences that are generally centered around default postures towards each other in relationship and in society, right? Like the ways that you are assigned the role you play in the big dance that we're doing every time we interact with each other. And I've been thinking about how like the interplay between how we need, like, there's a lot of social rules, there's a lot of social expectations, and there's a lot more than just literal interpretations of words we say that we need to get along with each other and function. That's why we have art. That's why we have, traditions. That's why we have, that's why we use better plates when we're having fancy dinners. Like there's just ways we say the human experience is too big to say with just literal words. And so we do all these things. And we get into these ruts where we forget that we're kind of making these up in order to better express what it is to be human. And you need to make sure that you have the humility. You need to make sure you are taking time to think about the things that we do without thinking. And I think especially now, queer people just like kind of force you to do that because gender and sexuality are really, really deep grooves. And they have kept the planet running for thus far in human evolution. But but they're a hard one to step back from and look at. We just finished reading with my church's book club. We read The Tears of Things by Richard Rohr, and he was talking about the role of the prophet. And he had an interesting take on what a prophet was, where he said basically there are people who live in religious and cultural systems, and those are just like the standard adherent, and there are priests who are the people who maintain the system. They keep it running, and make sure that the day-to-day operations are working for people. And then the prophet is the person standing at the edge of the whole system and thinking about it and raising alarm when something needs to change about the way we do things. And it's making observations about things that we don't by definition think about because they are part of the subconscious that are the way we do things is, like the way we do things is designed to relieve the cognitive load of thinking about this all the time. But there needs to be people. And so he said, like, his pitch was that systems need people whose job it is to stand right at the edge so that we don't have change forced on us by people from outside the edge basically attacking. So you don't need your nation destroyed and taken into exile. You can have a constitutional convention and do some amendments. And so I haven't solidified how all these play together, but I think right now society does well to have queer people in it because there's a lot of things that very loud voices are trying to make us not have to think about anymore. And so the people who are benefiting from us thinking about them, they want us to shut up real bad.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. You're talking about it, and I'm just 100% on board with that. Prophetic role is what queerness is, right? Like that is the challenge of normativity is not by default a condemnation of everything that the normative people are doing or that they believe, but it is a condemnation of the assumption that because a thing is normative, it is automatically good, right? It is hey, let's decenter that, call it into question, and take a look at it. I was actually thinking about this from, like, here, I'll give a concrete example that's going to make a person who'll be on in 7 minutes blush. Like, I was benefited by Jenna's queerness this week, end of last week. She put out a really phenomenal poem about aceness that has me like rethinking concepts around loneliness and around self-sufficiency, and assumptions that I've made about like what it means to think of oneself as complete, but also what it means to think of oneself as incomplete. Like, and again, I always dig it when it's art because of the way that pushes beyond the boundaries of like what we try to capture in regular language. But like, this is just one way in which like every other queer person's queerness benefits me, right? Like I am blessed by other queer people's queerness, especially where it is different from my own, but also where it's the same as my own, right? Like there are things about being trans in a more like fulfilled and beautiful way that like Celeste has taught me, that you have taught me, Sam, that like we have learned from other friends of ours, right? And so yeah, all of that to just say amen, sister. Amen.
Right, because like you said, we're benefiting from each other. Because even as queer folks, it's tempting to then go like, okay, I found one of the correct grooves, and now this is the way people are supposed to be. And then, and so then you're shitty to non-binary people because like, oh wait, no, hold on. And so like it's when you change, you have to it's weird because most people don't have the cognitive like load to think about. To turn over every assumption in our lives every day. Usually just a few people become nerds about certain assumptions and just kind of pass and when we slowly get on board. But like I feel like that's the challenge moving forward that we've been getting better at and are retreating on, and hopefully we can continue getting better at, is how do you change and then keep the philosophical humility to change again later if you need to.
I love all of this.
I'm gonna get me to nerd out on epistemic humility.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's good. So good. And yeah, my goodness, this whole conversation just makes me happy. Right. And you're right. And we need all of it, right? We need like, I know Billy, you and I have talked about like how much I love that our expressions of femininity are very different. Right. And 1,000% equally valid. Right. And
there's 3 good different vibes happening.
Yes.
In this little
and Sam, you too. Celeste. Right. Like
we'll put the hair down for Celeste.
I don't even know how to do anything in your aesthetic. I'm just like, I'm in awe all the time. But you do need it. And I wanted to bring this back to talking about Jen and her family. It is true that Missouri is worse off because Jen and her family aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
And it's true that right now, New York is better off because Jen and her family are there. And it is true that they will be worse off without them, and that where they're going will be better with them. But like, it is a loss. Like, this isn't, when we're seeing families have to move or people have to move, right? It is tragic for that family, and also tragic for the community that's losing them, right? Because that's a community that won't have Jen in it anymore, right? And I got to spend some time with some people, on the trans faith series that she's doing with her church, right? And like, it was a beautiful time to get to spend with them, and I can tell the impact that she has had on that community, and that they're not going to have that, not at least not directly anymore. And so, it's just a shame that communities are, almost intentionally blinding themselves to all of these different rich queer experiences. The other thing I was going to say, I was just thinking about that famous, there was a photo that went around a couple of years ago from like the conference at MacArthur's church, where it was like 300 people who, at least aesthetically, were 100% interchangeable, right? They all looked exactly same haircut, same style, same whatever, practically same complexion. I think there was exactly one person of color in the entire photo.
I read a book called A Short Stay in Hell, and it was about a guy. It was about a guy who dies and goes to hell, and it turns out that hell is personalized ironic punishments. And so, like, I'll be quick about it, but his punishment is that he is sent with a bunch of people into the Library of Babel, which is a thought experiment of a library that contains every possible book that could ever be written, and that just like every possible character generated.
Gosh.
And he can get out if he finds the book that has his life story in it. And so the book's about him, and like he finds other people and they're on the quest for their books, but he noticed that it's all people that look like him. And at first he's just like, are we the only people who went to hell? That can't be right. But like, it's not even the punchline of the book, but there's a part where he realizes that he says, he said it dawned on him. He said that the monotony is part of my punishment.
Wow.
He said, I have not learned a meaningful thing from someone in the hundreds of years that I've been here, because we all have the exact same experience, and it is killing something inside me. And there was a line that said, I can only imagine that there is a heaven that is as diverse as this hell is homogenous.
I love it.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh,
and I looked at this conference, and I felt so badly for them, right? In terms of like, and yes, like they've done untold damage, and that's a problem, and whatever. But I also looked, and I was like, don't they get that queer people expand their box, right? And allow them to not have to do that. The one who might have dared wear, I don't know, like black shirt, like black tie, instead of the navy blue one that all of them were wearing. I don't know, right? But like we expand those boundaries, like air pushing on the outside of a balloon, and make sure that it doesn't collapse on everybody, right?
Yeah, I went to Christmas this last year at my family's. It was our first decent Christmas in a while, because things have been tense with my family. But during the cooking of Christmas dinner, I helped my mom roll tamales and make some of the Christmas stuff, and that is usually a thing the girls do. And that was and she didn't have girls that she knew of. And then and like it was she pointed out that like it was the first time in a long time that she's had help with Christmas dinner, and just like that's a very practical like thing. But there's been a few times that like I could like we started talking, and I'm like, you're having fun. Like this could be fun if you let it. And just like I don't know, like people close themselves off, and so it's a shame that folks have to leave. But it is also those of us who don't have to. We need to help load the vulnerable people into the lifeboats.
100%.
And that's
100%.
I'm gonna. I don't want to get too maudlin, and I know we're waiting for Jenna to show up. Maybe she's here. We're waiting for Jenna to show up, but we do want people to donate to Jen and her family.
Yes,
and I think one of the things that I want to highlight that like is not on the stream, and for reasons that have been pretty clearly laid out, right, is the incredible blessing of trans kids who are given the gift of like being able to know themselves at a young age, of being raised as who they are, who are believed from the beginning by their families. Like and again, I just like make people who are like here but not able to be on screen blush. But like Jen is one of my like freaking heroes, because the idea of a parent whose kid says, I am actually this gender, and whose response, whatever it is internally, is to the kid, okay, like, and is just affirming of the kid, is like, I can't wait for the blessing that kiddo is going to be able to bring to the rest of the world through the gift of parenting that they're currently receiving, through the gift of being able to be protected and loved in a world that is not yet hospitable. So to like, that is a form of love and a firm affirmation that like we didn't get. And like the excitement that I feel and the joy that I feel around, and like the protectiveness that I feel around the existence of those people as they are growing up it's really intense. And I'm really, really grateful. And I'm excited that we get to spend like this time in this stream encouraging one another to support that. Like we get to be part of trying to make sure that gift is nourished, protected, loved, and grows into the world. Jenna, you're here.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
Welcome.
Thank you.
It's so good to see you.
All right, you get the anchor leg of this this little marathon here. So yeah, it's gonna be good. It's good to have you here. You've been hanging out in the chat a lot of the day, so good to see you here in person, or see your actual face on the chat. As we transition from we've been doing a lot of transitions today, very on brand. But
it's what we do.
It's what we do. So as we transition from 1 hour to the next, and Sam and Billy, you're welcome to hang out as long as you want. We'd love to have you.
I got to put some littles in bed here in a second.
Yeah. You can come back now, but you can. But that's true. But no pressure. Anyway, but as we transition, I did just want to remind anybody watching, link there-ish, somewhere down below where all of our faces are. Oh my gosh, Jen, we love you too.
We do.
We love you so much. Yeah, just seriously. And yeah, so link down there takes you to thing where you can learn more about the need and what's going on here. And then also that will have link, which is the more important link to Clicky, because that's the one where you can give. Gifts are awesome. All gifts are awesome. Monthly gifts are even awesomer. But whatever you can do, even just sharing out that blog post or this live stream or whatever you want to try and raise awareness is just incredibly helpful, so that we can try and really make a difference here. This is just, people have asked me, what's this versus other things. There's so many needs right now. And yes, there are, right? And I'm not even going to try and pretend like I've made some sort of rigorous stack rank of everything like an evil HR person or something, doing who needs the most, whatever. But
I feel like that utilitarian giving approach turned out to be all tech bros, and it kind of went fashy in the end, didn't it?
Yes, it did. That is.
It turns out we need to make an AI that's not mad at us. That's what all your money should go to.
Yes, that is exactly what happened with all of that. So I will say with that of like, when we say protect trans kids, it's this, right? Among other things, right? But this is one of the ways that you can just jump in and do exactly that in a really tangible way that we can say 100% sure is going to make a huge difference for this trans kid. And she will get to grow up. She's going to grow up knowing how much her family cares about her, because Jen and her family are incredible. And so she's going to grow up with all of that, and it's going to be amazing. And I love that for her so much. And she'll get to, hopefully get to grow up in a community where she feels safe and wanted and valued and all of that. And so this is just a really great way of doing that. So anyway, link down there. Click it, share it, do the things. And now we've got Jenna here.
Thank you so much. Good to
Jenna,
see
it's
you.
so good to see you for a second.
Okay.
I'll jump back on if I can, I swear.
Okay. Sounds good. Bye. So, and then Jenna, now that you're here, it's so good to see you. And thanks for hanging out in the chat all day and everything like that. Do you want to go ahead and intro yourself?
Sure.
We'll start there.
All right. I'm Jenna. My pronouns are she, her. I live in Southern California. So we have it a little bit easier here than in some places, but it's also controversial in other ways too, to be queer and especially to be trans. So I do resources at invisiblecakesociety.com. It's queer Christian resources, it's aromanticism, asexuality, erased experiences of all kinds, but also covering the intersection of neurodivergence and mental health and disability, along with queerness. So I cover a lot of things, like specifically, I feel like my bubble is the queer Christian part of that, because there's a lot of people doing really great work for queer stuff like history or asexuality awareness and legislation and lots of things, parenting or whatever. But the queer Christian whole, specifically from an ace perspective, asexuality has not really been covered very much by other people. So if I can kind of bring together everyone's resources under one umbrella, it makes it easier for all of you to be able to find what you're actually looking for. And so I call it the Society, Invisible Cake Society, because it's just mainly resource curation. I write my own essays, I write poetry, I write these resources, and I also do podcasts and video interviews like this. But for the most part, the meat of all of it is me going into social media saying, what would you recommend? What books helped you become affirming? And putting those into a big list. And what communities and organizations are you part of? What does your denomination do for queer people, and how do they advocate for you? And so taking all of that from the community and putting it into one easy, convenient hub, which then also helps you, because if you're going into, like, say, the family holidays, then you can just send someone a link. Or if somebody's trying to debate you on social media, send them a link. Like, you don't have to remember, you don't have to spend so much time trying to go, oh gosh, where was that one thing I heard about the other day? It's like, okay, hopefully all of that would be under my resources list, which includes a whole playlist too. I got a whole playlist on Spotify of queer affirming. So some are queer, some are allies of Jesus adjacent people. So some of these people might identify as Christian, and some of these people might not identify as Christian anymore, but used to or something. So it's close enough to be in that general realm. So do a lot of lists, make a lot of lists. I organize things as activism. I don't organize people, I organize things.
It's super important.
Yes.
No, and it is super important work. I remember early in my coming out, and shortly after I came out, I just hadn't seen hardly any resources out there. And I remember somebody asked me, hey, do you have a good resource on this? Is there anybody doing this? And I just answered, sadly, there really aren't yet. Or whatever, because I didn't know. And it was Brian G. Murphy that was like, there are actually. Yes, there are. Right. He was a little upset, but he and I had a great chat about it. But I was like, I didn't know. I just had no idea. So it's super important work that you do. And I put the link over in the chat. People should check it out because it's awesome. And your writing is phenomenal. As we've already talked about and Billie was talking about, and things like that. So it's really important. I know we wanted to talk specifically because you have incredible perspective on just the intersections of all of these different forms of queerness. I think with apologies to anybody else. Like, I think you speak more clearly on that, and more deeply on that than pretty much anybody else I know. And so, like, I know we were talking just the other day about like aceness and transness and how the phobias overlap and things like that. And I'm just curious if you would be willing to talk a little bit about like maybe if we just start with amatonormativity and that word and what that is, and kind of what I don't know. We'll go from there. We'll see. We can go where you want with it. So.
Yeah. So, because we're trying to do this work that's not just, you can be a little bit more open to, it's like incremental progress is great, but it's not just that we want to have, all of this system. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just going to remind, because I see we've got even more people on the chat now. I'm just going to remind, check the link in the thing. And also, if anybody has questions as we're going, feel free, throw questions in the chat. We'll get to them, and it'll be great. So we've had a lively chat over there, and it's been wonderful. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So we're not just trying to be an inclusive church or inclusive community as far as we're taking straightness and making it more like gender welcoming. It's like we're not just shoveling around like, okay, you have to get married, and a modern normativity is you have to have this partnership, this marriage, this preferably straight and reproductive, be the central point of your life. So it's not just accomplishing things like, do you have a job? Do you pay your taxes? Do you own a house? Like, it's a long list of things that all add up to this larger concept of everyone must fit into this cis heteronormative, allonormative structure of you have to experience sexual attraction. And that once you do that, then you have to be straight in your attraction like that. And so it's just like all of these things that have to come into this bubble that is a modern normativity, but getting rid of one of those things and saying, well, it doesn't have to be a straight couple, and well, you can adopt, and well, you can do in vitro, or it's like all these things. So it's like, well, we'll make this structure work for you and slightly draw the circle bigger. And instead, I think asexuality inherently, and trans people inherently, and trans theory and queer theology, and a lot of these bigger concepts, if you're really getting down into it, we're destroying that bubble entirely. We have to just like take it apart, And so it's like, oh, these people are destroying the nuclear family. It's like, yeah, we are.
A little bit.
Not sorry. It's broken. It's trash system. We need to get rid of it. So what do we have instead? We have collective liberation. So the opposite of modern normativity is not just singleness or, all those crazy blue-haired, it's like, they're like, society will collapse. And it's like, no, like we still have a mom and a dad and some kids, or a dad and some kids, or, a non-binary person and their partner and, no kids or whatever. It's like, you got all of the possibilities of the universe. Everybody talks about like, oh, well, I don't want to take up too much space. And it's like, well, it turns out that space is ever expanding.
Right.
And actually so vast that we can never comprehend it. Because, and I would say as a religious person, as a Christian, I would say because God designed it that way. And God, when we say God is queer, we're not just being subversive, we are being factual. Like that is just science of that. There is no bound or rule book or gender role that God is taking on. God is all above and is expanding far beyond that. And we were created in that image.
Right.
And so that's what gets me real excited, because it's like, we can have a more expansive view of liberation that doesn't just mean, well, it's okay. Like you can do this and you can go this, and like you can go this far with your partner, but you're not allowed to do this. And I think so many even structures that are trying to be inclusive or affirming of queer people are just like, well, we can take these rules that are good, but then make them a little bit more like make them work for us.
Right.
And it's like integrity and values and getting down to the heart of things requires really having to be willing to question that. The deconstruction, or I've been part of that for longer than it's been called that. So it's like evolving faith of things is like having to rethink everything, doesn't just mean saying like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to take that doctrine and throw it out, or okay, this doesn't work for me, but I'm still, I'm still holding down. I'm still good. I promise I'm still in the fold. But really going down to the core of being like, who is God? Who did God design humans to be? Like, what is my purpose here on earth? Like, and so it's like a lot of these things have to go down to the very core of who we are. And then once we start with healthy foundations and healthy roots and healthy soil, we build all the way up into this really good fruit that actually will last and isn't going to collapse if we, have something else come up that's like, oh no, we didn't think about intersex people. What do we do now? Or, oh my God, we didn't think about polyamory. Like, how do we adjust the rule book? And it's like, well, but we're not going off a rule book. We're going off of the fruit of the spirit. And so if we're building from that foundation up of collective liberation, then it's like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, anything that gets thrown our way, it's okay. Yeah, we can adapt to that. Like, let's look at it according to our values and according to where we think the character of God is in this situation. And that is so far away from where we are now with heteronormativity, with patriarchy, and all of the systems that keep us into gender norms.
Right.
And so when we're talking about trans acceptance, we have to also be talking about asexuality acceptance. And we have to also be talking about bisexual acceptance and all of this together. So we really can't cut off, like you were talking about with the body, as people want to like saw off the IA on the end of LGBTQIA. Like, well, we don't really need the IA. Let's just end it at Q. Okay, shorthand. So we don't always have enough space in Blue Sky or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, now let's just cut off the Q because we don't want those people in our, I was like, not those people. And it's like, okay, well, now that we've got the Q off, it was like, it really would be nice if we just had the T go away because they're a big problem right now and we don't understand that. We don't want to deal with that. And then you've got, oh, well, just LGB. And it's like, honey, who do you think's coming next? And it's just, my theory actually from the Celeste, it didn't grow out of theory. It didn't grow out of a philosophy class. I've never taken any like sort of queer theory class or in academia. All this grew out of watching it. I was there. I was there watching. On Tumblr is where they started this. That there was groups on Reddit and 4chan that went into these spaces that were known as very millennial social justice warrior, very conscious and empathetic people who were young and passionate and naive and not very well educated in the ways of social justice work. And we're trying to like do the right thing. And they were just so earnest and so genuine. We just wanted to be, good people. And the testing ground was asexuality. So you come into Tumblr in like 2013, 2014, 2015, and you're seeing a lot of stuff go, these people are the downfall of society. And the challenge for them was, how do I spin this in a progressive way? And so you start to see the baby roots of TERFism come place, the trans exclusionary radical feminism of they're coming in, trying to like boil it, lay the groundwork, and set up this stage for if it's okay to tell ace people to die, if it's okay to tell ace people to be like, this is why everybody needs to be bullied. These people are too weird. They are harming the gay movement, which is only about gay people. And you guys need to leave yourself out of it because it is not about anyone else except for those who experience same-sex attraction.
Right.
And that's what this community is for. You don't really experience oppression. You don't know what it's like. And So there's all this aphobia that starts coming up. And then you start to notice a pattern. It's like if the aphobia comes up, about 6 tweets down on Twitter. I measured it over a course of probably 5 or 6 years. And it was every time you found an aphobe, it took an average of 6 tweets or less to find an explicitly transphobic post.
Oh my gosh.
It was very closely tied. And then it was interesting because you would talk to bi people and they would say, what would you experience as biphobia? What are you talking about when you say biphobia? And they would list a lot of arguments that were just recycled aphobia and transphobia. And you need to pick a side and you can't just be non-binary and you can't, it's like a lot of these things that were like, oh, but you need to perform according to the normativity of a modern normativity. You need to fit into your role. And so there was a lot of overlapping intersections just by the very nature of who we are baked into the system, because queerness is a spectrum of, there's not clear lines of like, well, you either don't experience attraction, or you only experience it to girls, or you only experience it to boys, or you only experience it to two people like 50% of the time. And it's like, these boxes are fake. None of this is real. This is all just very whooshy in between. So I went back to look at the ACE community survey. So we do this survey every year. It's a big deal across the entire ACE community. Every social platform we have, like international reach. In last year's survey, this year's is currently running, by the way. Go Google 2025 ACE survey if you are asexual, and please take that and fill it out. But the 2024 survey showed a third of the ACE respondents said, I am trans or under the trans umbrella, or I am unsure and questioning I might be. So 25% said absolutely yes, and another like 11% said probably, maybe somewhere in there, unsure.
Wow.
And then of that, a lot of the people who did identify as trans or said they were unsure said non-binary is the word that best describes them.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we're just tearing down walls, and it's like all the other people are like agender, genderqueer, you know.
Yeah.
Who knows? So it's like, once we just start queering queerness,
Yeah.
we can have such a more liberative view of the whole world.
Right.
And taking away these like, well, you're either in or you're out. You aren't or you're not. You're obeying the rules like a good little girl, or you're not. You know, pick a side.
Right.
So I think there's a lot to be learned from each other, as y'all were saying. There's so much I have learned from my trans friends that honestly, like we were talking the other day, it's like, let's list off these Christian trans women. And I said, hey, that's my notifications, because those are the people that support my work. It's like when I go to see who has reblogged my things, who has retweeted or respect or whatever you're calling it now. We're not on Tumblr anymore, but it's like ages down. We've progressed from MySpace all the way down through the century. When back in my day, we had MSN and Yahoo and AOL. But it's like now we're, here in the 2025s, it's the Blue Sky notifications. It's Instagram, it's Threads. We're supporting each other, because we know that not only is the hate against us just the recycled same old thing, same old, and they hate us too, like, but it's that we all are tied up into this together on the joy side too, on the liberation side too. We're not just, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. It's that like we are all one community, and trying to chop off any part of that is not going to work. And I would say the same for trans people as I would say for ace people, that when we say, our stories are excluded, our stories are not featured at queer conferences, our stories are not featured in queer books or queer history or any part of, LGBT awareness month, I was joking about there's the International Day Against Homophobia, something. Anyway, it's pronounced Idaho bit is one of these awareness days, because like the International Day of blah, 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 blah. And they just like keep adding on letters, and we're at Idaho bit right now. But it's like, I always make fun of it, because it's like, where do you put the A if there's asexuality? It's like, at what point do we just become a potato? It's just like, guys, we're here too. It's not just LGBT History Month. October is LGBTQIA History Month, because there's no way you can talk about bell hooks or talk about it's like look at all of these people in history, Nikola Tesla, like I could just name all these people that it's just like, yeah, there's a good chance that insert historical queer figure here had some asexuality in their life, or knew somebody who was ace, or this person who never got married, we assume, oh well, they must be gay because they were a proud bachelor all their life. And it's like, why do you think that? They didn't have any male love interests, they didn't have any relationships with men. Why is the assumption that they have to be gay? And same for female characters in fiction. It's like, oh well, if this girl doesn't have a boyfriend in canon in the movie or the TV show or whatever, then she must be a lesbian.
Right.
Why?
Right.
And I think asexuality in particular, queerness in a lot of ways, because we have so many spectrums.
Yeah.
And under S. So there's all different ways of not experiencing attraction. Some of it can be frequency, and some of it can be the specific type of attraction. For example, we have not just sexual, but romantic and sensual, and like holding hands basically. And
Yeah.
then platonic attraction and queer platonic attraction. If I want to get married, but not like in a romantic way, just
Right.
I want to be friends with this person forever, for life. Like
Right.
that's queer platonic attraction.
Mhm.
Aesthetic attraction of like, oh, you look beautiful, but like I don't like want you to take off your clothes. Like that would ruin it. Like it's like, no, keep the clothes on. The clothes are part of the package. So
Yeah.
there's all these different types of attraction, all these different ways of being queer, and all like there's no limit to the number of ways you can be asexual with your lack of attraction, or we don't use lack because that kind of sounds negative, but
Sure.
with your low amount of attraction or no amount of attraction.
Sure.
There's a lot of ways to do that. Does it count? Am I ace enough? Am I trans enough? Am I gay enough? Am I bi enough? It's like, yeah, girl, like just join in. Like, come
Yeah.
on. The more people we have in the boat, the better, because we all have to support each other.
Yeah.
And we all have to be part of this. So
Yeah. I very much, I know I've seen a lot of this in the trans community of people trying to push back on, am I trans enough? Right. And be like, look, there's no bar here. Right. Like if that label works for you, that label works for you. Right. And so I know people who are, gender expression aligns with their assigned gender at birth, and things like that. And they seem very much like that. Their name hasn't changed, but they've added a they them pronoun. They haven't even disowned their assigned gender pronoun, right? But they've added the they them because that works for them, right? And they feel like, I'm not entirely this thing. And they want to use the word trans to describe themselves. And I'm like, great, welcome, right? Like, awesome. Like it's your label if you want it, right? Like anybody who feels like and if somebody says they are cis and trans, I'm gonna have some questions. But I don't know. I'm not opposed to learning that there's somebody who, that those labels both work for them. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like I want to be far more inclusive, lean towards inclusive until somebody is just doing something like, where it's like, you sure seem like you're actually just trolling now, or something like that. But or you've misunderstood one of these labels, like
or you're intersex. So either way you choose, you're both cis and trans.
Sure, yeah, and that's my point. Is like this is where I'm going to like start off with curiosity and say, that's a surprising combination to me.
Well,
Can you help me? Can you help me understand that? And I'm going to assume that I'm about to learn something, right? Not assume that they're wrong or whatever. And I definitely don't feel like we have to get away from any kind of feeling of like, but this is my label and I need to guard it. And I need to make sure that only the real people get into this label. It's like, stop it. The map is not the territory. The labels are not the thing. Like, let's whatever. You said something that I wanted to talk about. Sorry, you looked like you wanted to say something.
Oh, I was just saying, the more people, the better. So people,
Yes.
I have the lesbian flag up here, and it's like, you can't be lesbian because you're asexual, and that has been a debate for, God, I've spent way too much time in my life trying to find these people. But yes, you can. There's a lot of ways to do that. I'm not going to explain them all because that would take too long. But it's like, actually, it's kind of like the library. The library gets funding based on how many people are using the library. So the more people that use the library, the better. And it's like, for us, I think it's kind of the same way of like, the more people who identify as queer and who can speak from that experience, whether it is experiencing attraction to their gender or experiencing attraction to multiple genders, or experiencing multiple genders within themselves, or no gender at all, or no attraction at all, or it's like you have to speak authentically about your experience of what that is within the queerness. I'm not just saying like, oh, allies can be here too, but allies do, like, come on in, like, it's like, hey, like, you're not queer yourself, like, you're not marginalized for being that, but like, you're choosing a stance of solidarity. And that is powerful and it means something. And you should very much be talking about that. It matters. Harvey Milk was out there being like, come out, come out, come out. Everybody got to come out. Because once people realize that we're here and we're queer and we have huge numbers of us, they cannot deny that we are a powerful voting bloc. They cannot deny that we need healthcare. And you're not just sad and alone and the only person who's ever experienced this,
Right.
but like having to talk about and even share the labels. Like, why do we need labels? Just let everybody there know. It's like, is there any way in any world where you would walk up to me on the street and know that I was asexual? No,
Right.
you just assume everyone here is straight.
Right.
And that's not true. So anyway, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead with your thing and then I'll continue on.
No, it's so good. And there's so much that I could say about that and all the things. But, and I do want to just say the ally to queer, throw that one on there. Because, hey, look, it's me. Yes, started off trying to ally. And I kind of did both at the same time in my journey, but I appeared as ally first. And was starting to get the like, oh my gosh, Celeste is such a good ally, especially to trans community. And I was like, oh shoot, they're gonna catch me, right? And what was sad about that was actually realizing that there was a point where I almost did a like rebuttal to a thing Denny Burke wrote. And then as I was writing it, I was like, no cis person knows this much. And if I publish this, people are going to be like, wait, Celeste, are you trans? Right? Like, and so I didn't. And it actually, I kick myself for not having done that, like for pulling that one back. I'm like, but we need, like, this is what allies do. We need allies who do know the stuff and who do engage on. Anyway, that's a whole thing. But where I was going to go with that, I was like, oh, first, I did want to say, even if there were very few of us, though, it would still be the just and right thing to do to, like, fight for people's rights to live those queer lives, even if there were very few of us. But there are, in fact, more of us than people think that there were. I like Abigail Thorne did one video where she's like talking about people being like, oh, there's so few trans people and, you know, whatever. And she pauses, she's like, who told you that there's very few of us? Because we don't actually know yet. Right? Like at this point, no one can say what percent of people are something other than cis. Right?
Yes.
We
Let me
don't
tell you
know.
about mine. So if
What's
you're
that?
1%, if you are 1% of the US population, that is roughly the population of Chicago. So
Yes.
the asexuality community since the 1990s has been saying we have the Chicago number. So if you've ever met somebody or believe that people can live in Chicago, that there are Chicagoans out there, then you can believe in asexuality and it does exist. We're not just straight people trying to be special. We're not just internalized homophobia, gay people. Like we really do exist. But thinking about the number of people who would have self-identified as asexual in 1997, how many more do you think that is today? I would say exponentially, like just the ways that the asexual community has come into the sphere. And the problem we had was we had a chance with the Biden administration, right sandwiched between two Trump administrations, to get to the Bureau of Statistics and say, hey, you need to include us. And they got there as far as defining the acronym. So they did not say that A stood for ally. They did say that A stood for asexual, but 0% anything else, like not from Gallup, not from census, nothing. They refused to include asexual. And I have heard I was not in the room, but I've heard through the grapevine of people who were at the White House advocating for this, and they just got laughed at.
Yeah.
So
I know I saw repeatedly the Biden administration use LGBTQI plus. And every time I saw it, I was like, that's choice.
It was intentional.
Like,
please know that was not
very few people do that. Like I've seen a lot of LGBTQ plus and a lot of LGBTQIA plus.
Yes.
But if I'm seeing you throw an LGBTQI plus, that is intentional. And I did not like that. That did not make me. And I'm sure you liked it even less.
I do miss the days of Twitter where Jenna could just go off on an unhinged rant against the Department of Statistics. I could be like, this report is wrong because you need to see us. But yeah, I think so in the church too, is I'm trying really hard to make that visible in the church, that it's not just about, do we allow gay marriage? Therefore, we are an LGBTQIA plus inclusive church. Yeah. So it has to be more than that.
Yeah. We've got Ace Reporter. I tell my story because if one person feels seen, they will have more than I had. Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure, I know there are queer people who come to an understanding of their queerness without having seen another queer person. But a huge percentage of us, it's from seeing somebody else and being like, whoa, that, I recognize that, right? Or like me seeing, a trans Christian and being like, you can do that? Did not know you could do that, and now I want to do that, right? Which isn't contagion, it's opening the world of possibilities, right? It's saying these are options, right? It's no more contagion than a job fair in high school enlightening you that, I don't know, an aerospace engineer exists, and you're like, what? I can build rockets for a living, right?
Yes.
Right?
But also to
Like,
the point of
that's not rapid onset rocket scientist dysphoria, right? Like, that's just somebody coming to a new possibility and being like, ooh, that's actually what I wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
If you've seen a green-eyed person or a natural redhead, you've seen an ace person. Yeah. Like,
well, and then to the point of Billie's thing of you contamination,
yes,
of the joy. And so it's one thing to see an older queer person and be like, oh no, like that's my life. Like I don't have any hope for a future besides this, It's the you contamination of like, oh, I can be that and I will be okay.
Yeah.
That there are trans people working in the high realms of this company. Like there are trans women who are succeeding and are doing great in business and are constantly busy because they're the most relied upon person in this company, which that is true of my company. And then like there are ace people who just are normal human beings that are out there in the world and they're not like sad and lonely in their parents' basement or whatever. Like they're living a great life and leading the community. And especially having ace-led queer community feels really important. And so I have parents at my job. I do lead the ace community or the queer community at my job. And I've had parents come to me and say, oh, you are real. Like you, like my daughter is 13 and came home from school saying she's asexual. And I want to know what the kids are talking about these days.
Yeah.
But you're like 30s. It's like, yeah, it's real. We are all ages. We are here. We are just as real as gay people. It is an actual thing. And I've had that in queer Christian spaces too, of these allies that say, I don't know about this. If my kid had come out and bisexual or my kid had come out as gay, I would have been totally on board. But I don't know about this ace thing. That sure sounds like maybe they need to work through some issues or trauma or anxiety. Like, no, you're fine. Here's some resources.
Which is what they've thrown at every other letter in the alphabet before also, right? Is, oh, you're lesbian because you've never been with a man, right? Or you were assaulted or whatever, right? Like, it's like, no, that's not how this works, right? And it's just, the people discounting somebody else's story because they don't understand it, right? And we have to move past that of the like, yeah, we just have to move past that story is different than mine, therefore I have to find this is where a lot of transphobia comes from for me, like, is when I have a cis person throw, well, you just transitioned because X, right? The X is almost always a cis person trying to come up with a reason they would choose to transition, right? Which of course doesn't make sense, right? Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. It's just kind of what they, what they're imagining, but they don't know what it's like to feel gender dysphoria and gender euphoria at expressing my gender identity as I truly am. Like, they don't, but they skip over that one because they can't imagine that to be true, right? And so they come up with all these just like, this is where you get all the like really hurtful, like, oh, well, you're just transitioning because whatever, or things like that. And it's like, no, that's not it actually. And none of us are saying it is. Literally zero. You can't find a trans person who has broken ranks and said, That's it. And it's not because we're really good at enforcing messaging within the trans community. We are not. There's plenty of trans people who say things that make a lot of other trans people unhappy, but you will never find a trans person who says those are the reasons they transitioned, because it's not what we are. But I did want to bring up, you were bringing up something about, overlapping marginalizations and why all those things are what they are. For some reason my dog is barking upstairs. I don't know if you can hear that, but he's having himself a time. I don't know. He probably sees himself in the mirror or something, but
there's the dog in the house. It's in the mirror.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not the only one seeing this, right? But anyway, but you were talking about, like, with trans people, there are two primary, and there's a lot, but there are two primary things that people go after with trans kids. Billy, we have zero. Yes. We have zero message discipline. By the way, Billy, you're welcome to come up on the stage if you want. Good to have you here. Anyway, but there's two primary things people go after trans kids with, right? Typically, it's either infertility, right? It's literally the book Irreversible Damage, where they show the cutout doll girl with the midsection cut out, right? And it's like, so that's, you're just admitting that you see women as baby factories, and that's gross and ew. But so there's that. But then the other one that I'll see them go at, really, and this is so weird to see Christians do this one to me, is like, they're like, oh, if you don't let the trans girl go through puberty, then she won't be able to experience sexual pleasure, or like, and of course they're misgendering here all the way through this, and things like that. But it's like this concern about their, like, sexual function, right? And things like that, which, again, I look at both of those and like, those are like very AC phobias, right? Of like, oh, but they won't do sex and reproduction right.
Right.
Am I tracking? I'm tracking this
yeah.
right all
And
the
then,
way. Also, thanks, Billy.
Yeah,
And
we love you,
totally
Billy.
get it, but
Yeah, absolutely. And so we often see this intersection as well with both autism or neurodivergence and transness, and we also see it with autism and neurodivergence and asexuality. Is like, oh, but you're only that because you're this, and it's like, one of the defining features of this community is that we have rethought norms. So yeah, absolutely, we are more likely, not more likely to be trans. We're just more likely to have questioned our gender according to that, which I will talk about that in a bit. But yeah, that is absolutely true that there are so many intersections between all these things. So anti-trans people are deeply incorrect. Yes, also very creepy. Yes, exactly. So like trans kids especially, they are very afraid of asexuality. And so you saw this on Stonewall UK has they're a great organization in the UK who's doing a lot of awareness. But several years ago, they mentioned Asexuality Day. I can't remember which Asexuality Week or whatever it was that they were celebrating, but they had a bunch of comments from people who were saying this is the problem with transitioning for kids, is they were like, these people are pedophiles, which was odd. It was like, no. It's like, and very much the opposite. It's like, anyway, it was just like very crazy of like,
and once
how
again,
dare
combine
you?
that with what I was saying of they come up with the reason they would do it, and then those statements get a whole lot creepier.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and every accusation, a confession, etc.
Exactly.
But yeah, they really get scared to think about their kids not experiencing sexual attraction,
Right.
which again, super creepy. But it's all about that modern normativity. It's all about the purpose of their lives. When that baby girl is born, we started praying for her husband and that she would wait for marriage to not have sex. And I mean, you've got a baby, a literal actual newborn, And the parents are saying, yes, we have started not saving for her college, saving for her wedding, and praying that she will be sexually pure by the time that she finds her husband. I mean, that is just, it drives me crazy. If like they have little girls start writing letters so they won't date to their future husband. And it's like, what? How do you know that girl's going to get married? How do you know that God even has that plan for her? Maybe she's meant to be single. Maybe God has called her to be straight and single and straight and celibate. Like, you don't know. Like, you don't know if she's gay. You don't know if she's asexual. Like, and so I've made some parents really mad about this because it's just unthinkable to have. I am someone's worst nightmare. And I know you are to a much farther extent than I am. It's like thinking about if I were to go to a parent and they were like, hey, like, I'm, starting purity talks with my daughter. She's 8 and we need to talk about, staying pure and, not getting all wrapped up in boy crazy and what it means to have sex and not wait, and wait till marriage and all this. And it's like, okay, but what if, the high school youth group. Yeah. It's like, okay, but like, what if she's not? What if she's asexual? And it's like, that is the worst fate I can imagine. Oh, thanks. Good to know. It's like, here I am standing here talking to you in a public park. It's like, thank you for that affirmation. But it's like, because you're beyond their imagination.
Which is ridiculous. I'm just gonna say the thing. It's ridiculous when they go there. It's weird. And also, Paul literally talked about that in the Bible. And if they're actually gonna say they care about the Bible, Paul actually said ace people are awesome, and he wishes everybody was. Yeah. Like,
Paul not relaying.
This is where the evangelicals just completely lose any credibility on, well, we're just following the Bible, right? Yeah. Like, come on, if you were, that passage would matter and you'd do a whole lot of things different.
Paul not realizing that he is asexual has done a lot of damage to the church by not having those labels 2,000 years ago. So I think that we can say this is a lot of progress that we have made because of the harm done when a queer person doesn't understand that not everyone around them is the way they are. So I'm thinking like, gosh, we could just use that as such an example of why we need queer acceptance in the church and awareness, really, education, and that queer education is part of Christian education. And that sounds really controversial in 2025, but I really hope it's not in 2035. In 2045, it would be like, well, of course it is.
Right. Well, and we talk about like, I think about this of like, there was a guy, I'm not going to name him, but there was a guy doing a thing about like, well, kids like things simple. Kids like things in boxes and everything like that. I'm like, you ever have a conversation with a kid about whether or not Pluto's a planet? It's a lot of fun. You ever have a conversation with kids about like, it's a chicken, a dinosaur? It's a lot of fun, right? Hank Greene just did a video recently on like, either bass aren't fish or humans are. And there's no definition of fish that like includes bass that doesn't include humans, or like you can't do fish the way you want to. And like kids love that stuff of like things being different and normal. And it goes back to like, as Christians, we would say all this diversity that God has made and all these different ways of being. And when we come across a new person with a new and different way of being, we should be excited and be like, wow, I didn't know that was a way of being. Isn't that cool? There's another one that I didn't know about. Here's a new dinosaur. Here's a new planet. Here's a new whatever. Like in the last 50, 60 years, we've discovered quasars and pulsars and neutron stars and whatever. And now like first grade Celeste is geeking out over this stuff. Right. And absolutely right. But like, we didn't know about those 100 years ago. It doesn't mean they didn't exist, but now we have a richer understanding of the world and it's fun. But
we visited the Fermi laboratory when I lived outside Chicago. And my dad was the only one who understood any of the science that they were talking about in the visitors center and all the beautiful like plaques and things they have. I was like, I don't even know what any of this is talking about. But he was talking about like, this is so interesting to read because when I was in college, none of this had been invented. Like, we didn't know about it. It's like the smallest I got to was quarks. Like, we didn't know anything besides quarks. It's like it didn't get smaller. And so you have things down to like we're discovering new ways for things to be teeny tiny, like even teeny tinier than teeny tiny. And then we're also expanding so far into outer space that we can't even comprehend all of it, and we'll never be able to at all because it's so far beyond our reach. And so you get these things that are bigger than we could ever imagine. And then you also get these things that are so tiny that in 20, 30, 40 years, you won't even be able to understand the science because it's like, oh, well, we just didn't have that. Like we didn't know that it was a thing. So it's just amazing how we can look to science with awe and wonder. And it's not science versus faith, but it's faith is giving meaning to what we're seeing and the wonder and awe that we can experience the universe in. And there's no reason, I always say this, wildflower theology is that there are wildflowers of every variety growing out behind a dumpster. And if those wildflowers can grow in an alley somewhere where no one is ever going to see them, no scientist is ever going to sit there and count how many petals they have. It's just for the sheer pleasure of God creating. What on earth? How are you going to come tell me there is one way to be a woman and one way to be a man, and that's all God made? It's the only way to.
God was super creative, except for in humans.
It's just not consistent with any part of anything we know about God.
What?
Nothing.
Like what?
Yeah, don't get me started about my asexual Jesus. I will preach all day about my asexual Jesus.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And to be honest, I don't know that the binary, you were talking about like, how could you be both cis and trans? But it's like, I don't even know that the binary is that binary of you either are one or the other. And so we talk about like inclusion of non-binary people who's like, I'm not a binary trans person and I'm not a binary cis person. And agender people are like, I don't have anything to do with any of this. It's like, none of this is my problem. But I think I fall as well under a very long history of queerness. In that I am assigned female at birth, and that fit me very well until it came to what a girl is supposed to be. And so I identify with the label of aro ace gender, which is on the spectrum of queerness and spectrum of cisness. And so it's a way of queering cisness is you look at the early queer days where you're talking about this line between what is a feminine man and a drag performer versus who are we counting as trans women? We don't really have that terminology yet. And where are we counting a butch lesbian, then decide, actually, no, I'm genderqueer, or no, actually, I'm a trans man. And there's a lot of fluidity within that. And trans men who are still feeling most at home in the lesbian community. And, you know, you've got a lot of this back and forth of, you know, maybe there's a cis gay man who feels a lot more comfortable in a dress than he does in a suit. And that's okay. And you don't have to change your gender or whatever if that's not who you really are, but also that there is a divider and a difference. So I've talked about this with you before. We'll have that in another conversation and more in depth, but that's what really got me to understand and accept trans men was that they were saying, no matter what I'm wearing, no matter my gender presentation, even if you force me into a dress, I am still a boy and I will always be a boy. And versus the butch lesbian who says, I am queering femininity and I am still very much a woman and I need you to understand this is what a woman looks like.
Absolutely.
And deal with it. Yeah. And so that just was so freeing to me of that there's not only a spectrum of transness, there's also a spectrum of cisness, and knowing and loving and respecting and being allies with trans people has helped me as a cis person to expand my gender. So I am so far outside of the realm of what a woman is. That a woman is a mom. All you women, we know what it's like when your kids just won't get out the door and you got to get, you know, their shoes on and all women understand that. All women understand what it's like to have a fight with their mother-in-law. All women know what it's like to dream of the day that they're having a wedding and going to pick out their wedding dress. And every little girl thought about this. It's like, oh, okay. Well, if that's what every woman does, I'm not a woman. That's not who I am. But what would I be if I weren't? So it's like, oh, wait, what if you could be a woman and child free? What if you could be a woman and asexual? What if you could be a woman and a romantic, which is often harder because the stereotype of like, well, women just don't experience attraction until they meet the perfect Prince Charming Mr. Right. It's like, well, that never happened and never happened and never happened. And I was like, oh no, I'm meeting a lot of Mr. Rights and I'm not into any of them.
Right.
Something's wrong with me. And that's how I came to my queerness.
Yeah.
Not through allyship, but being like, I am bad at this. And you just have to expand your definition of what you have to be in your gender role. Even
Right.
growing up in a very feminist household where I was born into a church with female pastors, feminism was baked into my faith from the beginning, but it was feminism in the 90s way of you are not only raised to be a wife and mother, you were also raised to be the head of the boardroom.
Yeah.
And to be in charge of things. And you can do anything boys can do. You can be powerful and successful while also being the stereotypical woman who bakes and has children and other things. And it was just like, oh, but what if I don't want to do any of those options? And so, it's just queering cisness is a vital part of our allyship and advocacy, not just for trans people, but what we can learn from trans people.
Right.
And the vital knowledge you bring, the wisdom you bring, the way that you're reflecting the goodness of God and the fullness of God and the image of God, that not only needs to be I take care of those people, even though I am not those people in a binary fence in a line, but in a like, oh, I recognize in myself ways that I will never conform to the ways that women are supposed to be, and we see that in the gender expression laws about dress codes and how women are supposed to look in the office or, whatever. And then we also see that in ways that men are punished, in the ways that little boys can't do things that girls can. And you have to avoid confusion. Even like as a baby, they're telling you of like, I don't know, I don't want my little boy playing with those girl toys because I don't want to cause confusion in his life. And it's like, what? Confusion about what? So I just think like there's a lot that we need to be in partnership with on.
Yes.
It doesn't make a cis person trans, and we don't experience the oppression that trans people experience, and we don't experience the issues, just literally.
Sure.
Not even on a hierarchy, but just like I just don't. It doesn't occur to me. It never occurred to me. We don't have a gender neutral bathroom in my office at work because I've never needed it. It's just never occurred to me. And so I had to have other people in my organization. And same thing, I've had to have other people contribute to Invisible Cake Society because they're like, you can't really talk about asexuality unless you are also covering, oh no, what if I'm married?
Right. Right.
I'm speaking from a place of all asexuals being single and celibate and child-free.
Right.
But not all of us are.
Right.
So it's like, oh gosh, you got to have everybody as part of the pie, not just one trans person, one bi person, one cis person, but having multiple experiences of all of this is like, wow, we are all on this spectrum of trying to figure it out. We are all on this spectrum of allyship with each other. So I've just been so grateful for the ways you have helped me grow and the ways that you have supported me as I've tried to help other people realize that as well.
Right back at you. No, I think, yeah, exactly. As we were talking earlier about the whole, like, if we could tell you how this person's queer perspective was going to change whatever it is that you're doing, you wouldn't need them there.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I can kind of tell you what I'm going to bring in. But I can't tell you what Jenna's going to bring in, or what Billie's going to bring in, or what Sam's going to bring in, or what Jen's going to bring in, or Ace Reporter's going to bring in, or Jordan's going to bring in, or Jennifer's daughter is going to bring into this world, right? And I love that so much.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're going to see when, oh my gosh, that girl is going to grow up knowing that there's nothing wrong with her.
Yes.
And that she absolutely 100% belongs exactly as she is, right? And that sort of, like, somebody who can move through the world like that, like, I have no paradigm for that. I have no paradigm for having a conversation about transness in which at least part of me isn't riding the emergency brake of like, but what if I'm wrong? what if I actually am asking too much here, right? What if I actually am, whatever, and aren't I actually a little bit crazy, right? Like when we have people who don't have that, who just know this is who I am, right? Through and through, always, right? It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's-
Go ahead.
I say, if I were going to end this, we want to wrap down to the end. I'm sure you want to get to it, but one thing I want to make sure that is heard on this is being recorded, yeah,
Yes.
so that we're going to be able to play it later.
Uh-huh.
And so at some point, Jennifer's daughter is going to hear this, and I want her to know, whether she's going to listen now or when she's much older, there's an entire community of people who are here and who are supporting you. And it's more than you can just see from the speakers that have been on this all day. But you are walking into a community of people who have been there and they've done it. And whether they stayed in the US or whether they moved, whether they had great friends or whether they had no one, whether they had churches that supported them or they loved completely, there is a huge group of people here who love you and who are donating right now at that link down below, and who want to see you succeed and want to see wonderful, wonderful things for your life, and wish you every joy, because you're worth it. You're so worth it. And we are here in 2025 celebrating you. And that's what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. I will echo all of that. And it has been an absolute privilege all day to talk with amazing people. I'm kind of just like over here, I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to talk to all these people today. This is amazing. But to see all these people who have a lot to do, right? Every one of them has things to do. Some of them are, worried about fascism themselves. And yeah, absolutely. To Jennifer's daughter, I hope it encourages you to see these people show up and care, and to want to do this for you and want to make sure that you have every ability to grow up knowing that you are right and good and a blessing exactly how you are, and that deserving of every bit of love that you can find, and everything like that. And I know you can't be part of this stream for obvious safety reasons, but you being part of this world is amazing, and we are so lucky that you are here with us. So and even just your existence, I think, has made 7.5 hours of interesting conversations about all of these different things. I've learned a bunch today. I'm going to be processing this for a while, right? Because everybody brings something amazing. So anyway, yeah, Jen says, I point out the community all the time. These are your people. And Jen, I don't know if you can or want to join the stream real quick for the last few minutes here as we wrap up. But it'd be great to have you. But yeah, I'm just so thankful for everybody who did join today. I don't have the views on the second part here, but I know the first part had something like 60-ish views already when it broke. So we may have had over 100 people tune in at least at some point, and then we'll be able to share this around. And so it's so encouraging to see that, and I hope that Jen and family are encouraged to see that as well. And I hope that people click the link and do the thing, because that matters also. So sounds like Jen may join real quick. Be great. And seriously, everybody, while we're doing that, go follow Jenna's work. Find her Substack, Invisible Cake Society, subscribe. It's phenomenal. So hey, Jen.
Hey,
We did it.
thank you.
I mean, thank you
Thank
for
you.
letting us do this for you and your family. It's been honestly a special day for me, to get to be a part of this and to get to learn from so many different amazing people and connect with so many amazing people, and it's been just a life-giving thing to hear from everybody. So I'll be thinking about this a lot. But to you and your family, I just, we love you, and we are absolutely 100% in your corner, and we'll be trying to share this out and keep getting the word out and trying to make sure that you and your daughter and the rest of your family all get somewhere safe. So here we go.
I don't have words, but like I said, thank you for being our people.
Yeah. Thanks for letting us be. So, and with that, we will go ahead and wrap up. The link will still be in the clicky thing. So anybody who's seeing this today or in the future, it's out there. It'll make a huge difference, as we've said, all day. We've said, when we say protect trans kids, this is a really, really, really practical way to do exactly that. And right now in this country, this is what this looks like. And so, I know there's a lot of needs out there and everything like that. And I'm not even going to try and play any kind of game there, but to whatever extent people can support, I know it'll go a long way toward changing lives. And I do mean lives, right? It will change your daughter's life. It will change your family. And I really do mean what we've been saying over and over. All the people who are going to get to meet you and your family and your daughter where you're going are going to be so lucky and so blessed to have you all around. So it'll be huge. And with that, we will go ahead and wrap up. So thank you to anybody who is still watching. Have a wonderful night. I believe it's now night for everybody. And have a wonderful, wonderful night.